Hi everyone, and welcome to the 46th episode of Slime Time Sidequest, an official Dragon's Den podcast. This is your host, Yangus T1.
And this is Platty, the legendary jeweled slime. This week, we've brought an amazing cast together to talk about our best, worst, and most meh video games we've ever played. And instead of some silly old Platty doesn't understand opening, let's get right into it.
That's right. Joining us tonight, back for his 100th time or so, it's Platty!
Thank you. Thank you so much. Oh, man. Thank you. I mean, it's a little crowded in here. Let me scoot over here, because joining us tonight, and right here next to me, it's Yangus.
Woo! Yeah, Yangus! Oh, thank you. Thank you, too. Oh, thank you all so much. You're a wonderful crowd.
Oh, yeah, you're most welcome, man. Hey, there you go, Yangus. You told me with the inflation and all the supply chain issues, we had to start cutting it back a little bit, so I think I've succeeded.
Yep, all that t-shirts, all those t-shirts, everything else that we had, just had to really start cutting the budget down here. I mean, we can't even afford a studio to record this. It's terrible. But
I know. I'm in the garage tonight.
Yeah, it's just cold. This cold Florida garage. It's a whopping 70 degrees out here. It's freezing cold.
Man, you should have been in here earlier. It was like 98.
Little known fact, Platty and I are always recording right next to each other down in Florida. I fly down there every time.
Hey, I mean, it makes for good podcasting, right? No, we've never heard one complaint.
Yep.
Not one.
Although I was a little confused why Platty came out to the garage wearing nothing at first, except for this large parka coat for the cold. I don't understand why. He looks like Kenny from South Park. So
I mean, it's February. It should be cold in here, right?
That's March, Platty. You're a month behind.
Son of a damn March.
You're a month behind.
No wonder it was like 89 degrees today.
Yep. It's tragic. Okay. Well, with no one else here besides us, and to par everything down, with no one else here tonight except you and me, and an intro half a page long. I'm forced to agree with what we were talking about before.
Yeah. Yep. So, hey, Yangus, what do you think about this intro? What would you rate it? Like good, bad, just meh?
It's definitely meh. Okay.
Fair.
All right. Look. Okay, folks. As you might have guessed, this episode is just me and Platty. All joking aside, and we're going to play a little guessing game with one another. We've each come up with 5 games that we love, 5 we hate or just strongly dislike, and 5 we played that we were just completely meh for us. Not good, not bad, just middle of the road. We didn't really set up any other parameters with each other. We're not just going to try to list them off, but, we're going to guess each other's list beforehand. See how well, we know the idiosyncrasies of each other.
Now, before we get into it, it was nice having some of y'all. I think we're probably going to lose some subscribers here because of my choices. And Yangus, you have been and always will be a friend. Live long and prosper without me.
Yeah, we're probably going to lose some subscribers, too, from that joke I made about you wearing the parka. Nothing but that.
Yeah.
But,
yeah.
The
Florida.
Sorry, Liam. Yeah. It's just Florida weather, man. It just is
Sorry,
driving
Pendy.
my brain. It's just driving my brain crazy. It's just...
Yeah.
Well, I take it you pulled 0 punches with your choices, but...
Oh, zero. Yeah.
Before we start guessing, just want to give, the audience, listeners, everybody a little bit of context for how this episode came about. So, over the last few weeks, I've just because with the winter weather, sometimes being home extra days because not being able to go to work, whatever the case, I've started watching a lot more of Red Letter Media, which is a long-running channel on YouTube. They have their own website and everything. And one of the videos of theirs that I came across was this 3-parter series of John Carpenter films where they reviewed his... It was just a list between 2 of the guys where they talked about like the worst, the meh, and then the best. And because those guys talk about movies all the time, I happen to get The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, classic Clint Eastwood movie, one of the classic defining spaghetti western films on the brain. And after watching their John Carpenter videos, I got this idea start popping in my head where it's like, that'd be a kind of an interesting thing to talk about, where we like Platty and I picked 5 of our favorite games, 5 of our least favorite, 5 meh ones, ones that were just kind of middle of the road, and just do this a short little episode on that. Talk about them as much as we want to. Just kind of give brief explanations, go into detail. Whatever we wanted to do. So just had kind of the sudden inspiration to do it. I reached out to Platty, see if he was up for it, and we just kept it between the two of us, just to keep it a little more streamlined. We're always happy to have all the guests, but just to make this go just a little faster. I definitely think this would be an idea we could revisit with other people in the future, just to see what their list would be like. But yep, that's just a little bit of context for this episode and how it all came about. So, with all of that said, Platty, I think we should start with our least favorite / the bad.
Oh, we'll go to the slam list first.
Yep.
Let me scroll down. Slammer. Slamma ding dong. The FU list. So, I don't know how you came up with your worst, but I'm going to give just a 20-second here how I came up with my worst versus meh. So, it may be a little bit different how you did it. My worst are the games that I played all the way through, or at least a good chunk of them. And I think that's what bred my hatred of them. Like, why did I keep playing this game? I should have cut it off a long time before. But nope, I kept going. I knew what I was doing, and I just kept doing it. Whereas the meh are kind of games like I was like, most of them I didn't finish or I didn't get great into because it was like, this isn't a me game, Mm-hmm. So, no, the worst were games that shouldn't have been me games, and I should have realized a lot sooner. The whole reason why one of my gaming goals, I think a few years back, was to stop playing games that I don't enjoy.
Oh, yeah.
It's okay.
Cut it down. Figure out the ones you really want to play.
Yep.
Yeah. I kind of had the same approach. My least favorite were ones that, like you, I've played through them, and it just was kind of one of those things where afterwards I'm like, why did I keep playing that? I wasn't having fun. I don't know why I was, putting myself through it. There's one on there that is not a case of that, but only because, when I talk about it, I'll explain why. But there's only one of them on there that I did not beat. But it's, it's not like I'm out of anything from the cost of it. For the meh ones, those are ones that I picked that, there's stuff that I like about them, and they're ones that I've enjoyed playing. I don't regret playing them, but at the same time, they aren't necessarily ones where I feel like a super strong urge to go back to them. Maybe every few years or so, just kind of ones that
you're just meh on.
Yeah. You know what? It's just meh. It's just meh.
Just leave it at that. Enough
not
said.
Bad, not good. Just ones to go back to every rare occasion. But yeah. So why don't we start with you, Platty? What's the first one you had on your list for the least favorite?
All right. So you and I talked beforehand that we didn't really rank these in any way. It's just a conglomerate of 5. So it was just the way they flew out of my hands. And I think this one I put down first just because it was a PlayStation Game of the Month this month, something. Good old Legend of Dragoon. Screw that fucking game. Oh, 4 discs that game was. 4 discs for the PS1, and it was at least 4 discs too many. I'm just going to put it right there. The graphics, I mean, and this is a complete me thing, the graphics, because I really dislike pre-rendered backgrounds. I hate that fixed perspective. So right there, that was a bad one. I've said this a million other times. PS1 is not my home system. It was not what I really enjoyed, that era of gaming. I grew up with the Nintendo, Super Nintendo, and then kind of didn't play a lot of video games until the DS era, like tail end of GBA into DS. So I kind of missed the whole PS1 era, 3D era to begin with. And just those are graphics I can't go back to too much. Other than that, this game's got pretty slow-ass battles. I was watching a video the other day on this, and it was great because I Googled, I was like, what did other people dislike about this game? Because this game's going back like 14 years I played it. I could tell you the month and the day that I finished this game, and I'll get to that story in a minute. But I couldn't remember specifically a lot of the bad other stuff, but some guy had a video up and he's like, well, just watch how this battle begins. It was 90 seconds long, just a random encounter, which that rate is through the roof pretty much in this game too. Random encounter, it took 90 seconds to do 3 battle actions, just because there's like a little battle animation for everything, and Now, I think the timing elements during fights, while not implemented well, was a good idea. It just had crappy timing on it. Seen a lot of stuff about inventory management. I don't really remember that at all. But I do remember at one point in the game when I was playing it, I wanted to go back to a town. I have no recollection why. Again, 14, 15 years ago. but you had to switch discs to go back to old towns. You actually had to switch the disc. You're on disc 3, want to head back to that town you were in about 10 hours ago. Oh, well, you got to plop the disc out and put the other disc in. Because again, 4 discs to flop between, and just all those reasons. Plus, I've got complete poop-colored glasses on for this one too. This is the game that I was playing in August of 2008, 2007, 2008. And like I finished it up, like the day I finished it up, towards the end of summer, right before school was beginning, my ex-wife walks in like, yeah, I think we should finally pull the chain on this one. Why don't you move out and we can start divorce stuff. So like, probably within like 3 or 4 hours of beating this game, that discussion began. So
a lot of fond memories is what you're telling me.
Yeah, lots of fond memories of this. Like, everything's great. I love my life now. Got a beautiful wife, beautiful kids. Thank goodness that break happened. But in the moment, that's a really like shitty memory to have. Like, yeah. Like, and in the end, it was fitting. Like, thank God that I wasn't playing like Dragon Quest VIII that day. I mean.
Oh yeah.
I'm glad this bad memory is associated with this bad game.
No, it's weird how like that can happen. Like you can get a song or a game or a movie or something associated with a memory that can be good or bad, and when you see it or you hear about it, you're just like, ugh. Well, don't worry. We're not going to talk about Legend of Dragoon anymore. You can sleep peacefully tonight now.
I'll put polygons out of my head.
Little polygons flying out of your brain. But I'll go on to my first least favorite game on here. Like Platty's, my list is not really in any particular order. It's just sort of how I came up with them when I was making my list. First one, and Platty may or may not hate me for saying it, is Persona Q, Shadow of the Labyrinth.
Oh, I knew there'd be a Persona in here somewhere, but that was not where I would have thought.
Yeah, The idea for this game, it was like a combination of Persona, the Etrian Odyssey series from the DS and 3DS, sort of this crossover between Atlas franchises. It was supposed to be like one of the big spin-offs for the DS. And, visually, I think the game looks fine. It's got the chibi look for the characters. The environments look good. The music's always good because, thanks to Soji Meguro, he always does a good job. But I just did not enjoy playing this game. And that, to me, is a big component, and that's pretty much why all of these games are my least favorite are here. Because, like, when you play an RPG, some people go in for the story, some people are more for the characters, exploration, all that stuff. I just want, a good solid gameplay loop. And I was expecting this was going to be more like the Etrian Odyssey games where, you have that team customization, the map drawing. And, there are elements of that. Like, that is present in Persona 2.
I was going to say, those are both there.
But the thing is that the game itself is just not fun to experience, in my opinion. So I'm not a fan of how the combat mechanics work. It's cool that everybody can equip a sub persona, so it can help cover their strengths or weaknesses or give them some extra skills and stuff. But the way the MP economy works in the game is just it's kind of not worth using spells because it drains your MP so fast. You can use spells to take out enemies faster to strike their weakness, and then you get a free cast of it the next turn, but you're still going to run out of MP really quick. And in a dungeon crawler, you don't want to have to keep going back to town or going back to the hub to get yourself healed up and only make a little bit of progress at a time. And you can get around this by using something that admittedly I use because I just did not give a crap after a while, and use the overpowered like Hama and Mudu spells, which basically kill all random encounters for 90% of the game. And if you start with the Persona 4 side of things, you get Naoto, who has instant access to both. So she pretty much becomes your MVP if you just want to breeze through the game and not worry about random encounters. Yep. And really, like, for dungeon crawlers for me, and why I was such a big fan of the Etrian series, was that the dungeons have a really nice, design philosophy to them, where you have your foes that are, placed in just the right ways, or each floor has a different sort of setup for them. You can find these little shortcuts and stuff. And I thought that there were parts of Persona Q that had some good design choices for like the floors and stuff. But my God, the further you go into this game, it kind of just felt like they were like, how can we make it harder? Just start putting a bunch of the foes, which are like the on-screen enemies. Just start putting them in select places, and they're really intrusive and in the way. There's really odd dungeon mechanics, like, you have to carry this candle, and you can't let it burn out, or you have to solve these puzzles in order to get through these particular rooms and stuff. In the horror schoolhouse setting.
Oh, you didn't enjoy the baby crying? sound
No.
over and over and over and over again?
No, and I did not like the worst part of the game was I kind of knew about it before I got to it. Everybody kept complaining about the Inaba Pride exhibit, which is the fourth major dungeon. And I was like, well, it can't really be that bad. Oh, it's that bad. Oh, it's bad. Oh, it's that fucking bad. But no, there's just so... That was one of the things that really just started irking me too, because I got to the point with this game, and I normally don't do it, even with, like, regardless of what game. I put it down on the easiest difficulty setting and just pretty much blaze through it after a while, because I'm like, I do not give a shit about actually trying to learn and play this game the way it wants me to. I was interested in the story about the characters Zen and Ray, like the two new characters, and I liked how there was a whole theming thing going on with the Labyrinth and how everything all played together with the settings and the environments of each of them. Like, even though this is on my least favorite list, there is stuff that I like. You know, it's like the other Persona games. There is stuff I like, but the gameplay side of things, I just did not enjoy it. I found it more annoying than fun. I didn't find some of the character interactions that were popped up all the time very interesting. I just got to the point where I was like, I just want to be done with the game. I did beat it, and there, like I said, there is some good music, and there's some really cool, like, little crossover stuff that does pop up for the Etrian stuff. Like, you have a battle theme by Yuzo Koshiro, who's the composer for the Etrian series, for one of the bonus bosses. There's also the design for Zeus in this game is designed by the guy who does the monster designs for the Etrian series. I forget his name, unfortunately, but it's this really cool, almost like a Colossus type of look, like, or what is that? Oh, the Titans. Excuse me. The Titans were the one that, like, Zeus had to hide away, or, like, locked away in Greek mythology. It kind of has, like, that sort of look to him, and it's a really cool idea. But yeah, I don't know. This game just, I liked the story elements, and I liked how Zen and Ray's their parts played into everything. And it was kind of cool with some of the interactions. Like, I liked how there's a scene late in the late game where Shinjiro and Koromaru actually make the choice to not let their personas get stronger simply because there's story reasons to it. But yeah, I just didn't find the game very fun to play. I just got really annoyed with the dungeon designs and the enemy and the foes. Oh my god, there's so many goddamn foes in this game. Like people say, like, oh, Etrian's hard because of all the foes. No, this fucking game is hard because of the foes. Because you can't get around them half the time, and you have to just run for your life.
Well, you know what? I'm going to counter that for a second. And maybe my memory is completely wrong. And it probably is about all that. This game, I thought I was amazed that I could beat a foe on the first floor before I had completed the second floor. Because it wasn't one like a card with the heart of diamonds or something like that? Is that the very first foe in this game? Or am I completely mistaken?
No, you're right. You can beat it. I mean, you can beat you can fight any foe you want to.
Oh, yeah, I mean, the fact that there's tons of them. I was gonna say, yeah.
But yeah, there's just
numbers I have no memory of, and that could have really been a big ass problem later. 100% agree. But that's the one thing I remember about this game is the foes coming from Etrian Odyssey, and I was like, oh shit! Like, one of them got me, and I was like, ah! And I beat it, like, going all out, like final boss level. Balls to the wall, use everything I have, and I was like, oh, it can be done. And then, of course, I didn't try again because I was raised on Etrian Odyssey. Don't do that.
Yep. Don't do it until you're higher levels.
Exactly. Yeah.
But yeah, it's, again, like, even though this isn't least favorite, I don't think the game itself is just outright, like, everything is terrible about it, but just the design choices for some of the dungeons and the foe placement and stuff, it just gets... It's more annoying than, like, challenging. And I'm not a fan of that. Like, that's why I like Etrian Odyssey a little more. And why it's one of my favorite series, because there's a nice balance for it. But anyway, I've talked about this one long enough. What's your next one, Platty?
All right, my next bad one I'll go to, and this is definitely some, like, recency bias here. It's one I played through last year. I was big into the 3DS for a while last year for a period of a few months. I beat frickin' Mario Brothers Puzzle and Dragons.
Oh, yeah, you did play that one. I forgot.
Screw that game. I tell you, I had fun because it did have 8 worlds. I had fun through about the middle of World 3 or the middle of World 4. It became like, holy crap, I can't do enough damage like through doing puzzles because it's kind of like a match 3 kind of thing. Or Puzzles and Dragons, if you've ever played any Puzzles and Dragons, it's that. Yeah. It's got kind of the match 3 mechanic basically going on. And you can pick characters to equip, like Mario. It's got like all the different Marios. You can have Mario, you can have like little Mario, you can have Fire Mario, you can have Swimming Mario, because there's all the different colors on the screen, and the Swimming Mario gives you more points if you match the blue ones, and the Fire Mario gives you more with the red ones. Well, kind of at some point around in the middle of the third or the middle of the fourth, I'm like, none of these guys are doing like enough damage. Like I cannot, I'm matching like crazy. I should not be taking 7-8 minutes for random battles. Like, because you go through the level and it kind of looks like on the screen at the top you're like going through a Mario thing, but you're moving from point to point and having to do a little battle at each point. And I was like, man, these runs are taking way more than they should have. Like I'm on World 4-4. Why is it taking me like 25 minutes to go through World 4-4? Like it was like 8 minutes on one world ago. Like this shouldn't have. I got more powerful. They got more powerful. Like, whoa, where was this? And I started realizing there was a Mario and a Luigi character that if you use them, if you could trigger like a second or a third, I think it was a third cascade together, like if you got a match and then they fell and another match happened, well, it started multiplying damage, gosh, by like, I want to say by like 3 to 5, if you could get that third one. And if you had the Mario and if you had the Luigi, well, suddenly they're both multiplying damage by 3 and you're like getting 9 times the damage. And I was like, oh, okay, so this is actually working out. Like, okay, now I'm back to my damage output. For the rest of the game, I had to use those two because there was no other strategy to get good at this game. And reading up on it, finally I was like, okay, this game's like 10 years old. There's got to be strategies out there. And reading up on it, a lot of other people were like, yeah, they're the only two. Like, you've got like 25 people you can be choosing from at different points. And honestly, these are the only two that really keeps it going with the damage output. Instead, you start mixing and leveling up some of these other weird combinations of shit. And like basically, if you're just trying to finish this game, you're good just going through it. And at one point, I went to a level that I read you could grind for 1-ups. And when I got to the end of the game, I just basically, I think I died 5. I didn't even care. I was like, I'll just die 5 or 6 times on the last couple levels just because I got all these 1-ups. And I will sacrifice myself to just finish the game. Don't even care if it takes me 5 deaths to beat Bowser. No, I just want to be done with this game. And it just, the fact that it had all this customization there that could have been cool. And really, it was like, no, you really got to just use these two if you're going to want to actually do anything. And like, it just became such a grind. Like, it didn't need to be a 25, 35 hour puzzle game. It should have been a lot quicker than that. And to slap Mario and Luigi on, a free-to-play game like Puzzles and Dragons that's on the 3DS, so you've already bought it, and it's you don't need to have that grind to then have people buy premium currency or anything. Like, it should have been balanced better. It just was completely unbalanced. Played like a freaking mobile game. It's kind of what I wanted because I wanted the touch controls or whatever, just to have the 3DS experience. But goddamn, there was just it's so tunneled you into doing only one thing when it had a million possibilities that you could have done. And yeah, just annoying.
That's interesting because I remember you posting and telling us about your experience, but you were just like, oh, this game is just super annoying and everything. But I honestly have no info or know anything about this game. Like, I know I'm kind of like the Mario fan amongst all of us, like, that do Slime Time. So, just talk about it all the time. But this is one that I never played, and I never really knew any info about it. So
it's just a reskin of another game. So it's not a Mario game. Yeah.
And then you telling us about like your experience, not only here but in the past. It's like, God, what's up with this game? Like, I know you're not a big fan of Mario, like the character and everything, but it's like, what's up with the game itself? Like, is there just something, like, is it not balanced right? Well,
there it is, not balanced right.
Looked into it.
Give you 30. When you have these two characters that can do 9 times the damage, 10 times the damage, as long as you can match 3 at a time, basically, and nobody else does that, like, you got to do that.
Yeah.
And I guess they balance the game around that, so everybody else is trash at that point.
That's a shame to hear that, too, because, like, I remember one of the big previews was showing, like, you get a team up with all these different Mario enemies and, like, combinations.
Oh, yeah. You can have the Goombas, you can have the whatever.
And then to me, that was a really cool thing to see because, growing up with the Mario games and like all these different creatures you encounter, hearing that there was a way, like a game that you could play it with these different combinations. It wasn't one that I was probably going to pick up, but it was like, it's still, a pretty cool idea. But what's the point of doing that if there's like 2 really overpowered characters? There's no incentive to do that.
And you know what? 2 overpowered characters, I'd be all for that. But when the game's then like balanced around those 2 overpowered characters,
yeah,
you have no choice.
Yeah,
if the game was balanced normally, you could do whatever, and if you want to use EOP, cool, and blaze through the game, cool. If you want to just play with whoever you want, that's easy enough too. But now you couldn't play with whoever you want. Unless you were a hell of a lot better than I could find people online that were.
Yeah. Sorry, I should have clarified. That's what I meant.
That's fine.
Like that, if you're balancing the game around that fact, then no, no, that's not fun. Then you just have to keep doing the same thing over and over, And some people might want to try customize their teams or, try out some new characters. But all right, yeah, that's too bad. But just like there's a lot of dragons on your list, I'm noticing, Platty. Hopefully there's no Dragon Quest on yours.
Well, we'll see next time. I'll go back to one of the other words in my list.
Yes,
for my first game.
But speaking of dragons, my next game for least favorite is Dragon Quest IX. Dun, dun, dun.
I knew you were going there at some point.
Dun dun dun.
Should have made my guess. All right, go ahead, slammer lama ding dong this one.
Well,
Liam, turn this episode off. You don't want to hear this.
Well, I would slam it, but it's been such a mystery at this point why I don't like Dragon Quest IX that much. So you know what? We're just gonna leave it a mystery. Sorry, Osnavar, you're not gonna find out today. All right, Platty, what's your next one?
All right, so my next one, and here we go. I mean, you take the shots, I'll take the shots right back. I'm going to go with the entire SaGa game series.
Oh my God, Dwayne, is that you?
I'm going to wipe out all SaGa here from my memory with one, and including, and really the epitome of it all comes down to the SaGa-inspired game, Legend of Legacy. So we've had Legend of Dragoon. Let me just slam Legend of Legacy, and SaGa gets a little friendly fire here with this. So you're going to hear me talk my favorite games later. I love battle systems that I can see everything. It's all laid out, the turn order, the status, I was going to say who's going next, but that's turn order. But like weaknesses, strengths, have an HP bar, whatever. Yeah, well, these games, SaGa and Legacy, say fuck that to all that. They don't tell me enough. They don't let me know what I'm going to level up. They don't even let me level up. Every now and then, like, oh, hey, guess what? I learned a new skill. Cool. That was fun. Now, my Legend of Legacy, I think I've talked about this before. I'll go real quick. I actually had a decent time with the game. I got stuck on a couple parts. I got all the way to the final boss, and he had 2 forms. Beat the first form just fine. Couldn't, make a dent in the final form. I'm like, what the heck? It wasn't hard, the first form, and it wasn't hard to get here. It's not like I just struggled to beat the first form and now I'm getting smacked to the ground. It's like, no, man, it took that guy pretty easy. And now I'm like, I can't even make a dent. Like, what the hell?
Mm-hmm.
This difficulty curve between first and second form is ridiculous. So I battled it 5, 6, 7 times, never got anywhere close. So I was like, all right, I'll go. I need to search this up. I wasn't playing it on release. It wasn't long after, but maybe 6 months, enough time for there to be strategies out there. So I read up on all these strategies, and they're like, oh, you should be having this person with this weapon, using these skills. And I'm like, I don't have that skill. I don't have that skill. I don't have that skill. I don't have this skill. I don't have that skill. Well, why don't I have them? Because they're all fucking random. They just pop in wherever. So I was like, oh, I'll go battle for a while, get some of these skills. Nope, never got the skills. Put another 4 or 5 hours into the game. Tried battling hard bosses or hard enemies and everything. Sure, I got more hit points and more magic points and whatever, and some stats up, but never really learned tons of new skills. And, after 5 or 6 hours of doing, what little grinding you actually could in those games, it didn't work. I actually sold this game pretty quickly, ripped it out of my machine. Screw this. I'm going to sell it so I don't even have it around me anymore. So, and then, that was actually my first SaGa-like. And then I went to SaGa previous. And, you and I tried. We tried Romancing SaGa 2. I gave that 20 plus hours, and then at one point I realized, hey, aren't we supposed to be killing these 7 gods or something like that?
Yeah, it's the 7 heroes. Yep,
the 7 heroes, and one hero you kill right at the beginning as a story beat, and I'm like, well, I'm 20 hours in, I haven't even I don't think I've even seen another hero. So I started trying to look up where I could find them, and I take one on and just got smacked to the ground. And I'm like, okay, I'm 24 hours into this. This is not going good. So I stopped that. I tried the original SaGa game for the Game Boy. Walked around for a couple hours, was kind of meh on that one. I'd put that in the meh category, not the hate it. But I even got excited, bought SaGa Scarlet Grace. 2 hours into it, I still couldn't figure out the battle system in that. And what was that other saga? Frontiers, the one that came out 2 years ago, the re-release.
Yeah, that was.
Oh my
poor
God!
Platty.
I failed horribly on that.
Poor
I failed
Platty.
horribly. I couldn't even get through the first chapter.
So
I
just want to.
Apparently, I got set up though on that one.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Like, I felt terrible because I accidentally set up Platty for, I guess, failure, because before the game had come out, I had not played SaGa Frontier. I picked it up at launch too, and or the SaGa Frontier Remaster, excuse me. I had picked it up as well, and I had done a little bit of research before, not trying to spoil anything, but just kind of figure out, like, who are some of the, more recommended characters to kind of start your path with. And I saw a lot of people say, oh, if you want a more straightforward story / path, Red's a good character to pick, or Ricky's a good character to pick. Well, around that time, Platty was kind of messaging me like, hey, I'm going to be doing this for, RPG Gamer. We're going to be doing, different paths each. Like, who should I pick? And I'm like, well, these two characters are good. Maybe you should try Red. And unfortunately, that set up Platty for failure, and I felt terrible afterwards. I felt so bad.
There's another one. I didn't make it more than 2 or 3 hours into the game, and I'm like, nope, this is not a Platty game. Others are going to find great fun with this. Yangus is going to love it. Nope, give me my Dragon Quest IX.
Yeah. So well, it's okay. You and Oz can hate me for not liking Dragon Quest IX, but I'll never tell why.
That's great. That's great.
It's got the mystery can never die. It cannot die. It can never be revealed. But yeah, poor Platty. SaGa was not kind to him.
Nope.
She is a cruel mistress.
Very much so, in many forms.
Yes.
So what do you got next on your list there?
Well,
you already slammed Persona. Let's see. You already slammed Dragon Quest. There's got to be another big game out there somewhere.
Well,
got a Final Fantasy on your list?
Actually, no, not in the not in the least favorite, but we'll get to that.
Yeah.
So for this next one, and maybe this is going to be a surprise, and I'm sure if Penny listens to this episode, he's going to hate me for it. My next one is going to be Mario and Luigi Bowser's Inside Story for the Nintendo DS. So this is the third game from the Mario and Luigi series, and it was one I have kind of a weird history with this one. So way before we ever got it in America, like way back 2009, 2010, whenever it was that we got it, or when it officially came out, we saw previews for it from this one Japanese DS event, because it was like one of the early days of YouTube videos where people had posted like, oh, there's this big Japanese event and all these DS games got announced, and they showed off a brand new Mario and Luigi game, and I was like, oh, it's awesome, because I love Superstar Saga. I loved playing Partners in Time, the first DS game. I really enjoyed replaying them, and I was like, oh, great, there's going to be a brand new one. It looks really fun. It looks like they're going to bring back Fawful, who was one of the main villains from the first game. That's great. Fawful's a fun character. He had all this silly dialogue, and he was like an evil genius scientist kind of character. He made all these inventions and everything. So it's like, oh, it's probably a lot of cool stuff they'll get to do with that. Well, the game comes out in Japan. It was like March of the next year, and we never heard anything. And we never heard anything about a Western release. And it was getting to the point where it's like, well, why aren't we getting this game? Like, is Nintendo just not going to bring it? Like, what's the deal? Then they revealed it. They brought it over here to America. I finally played it. It was kind of one of those games where even when it did come out, it was at that point my hype was just totally gone, so I didn't really care. But I played it, I beat it, but honestly, it was more out of obligation than enjoyment, because I think that this is really not that fun of a Mario and Luigi game. And it sucks to say that, because the Mario and Luigi games are pretty well done. They're pretty well made, especially the first game. And Partners in Time had its issues with some of its design choices, and like you had the adult Mario Brothers and the baby Mario Brothers as playable characters, but it still had a lot of that same kind of fun to it. I just really did not get it's one of those games where I just did not have fun playing it. And the concept is a cool idea. The Mario Brothers, they get shrunken down and they get inside Bowser's body because he eats them, because of Fawful, who was this returning villain. They're exploring through his body. You help Bowser overcome challenges on the overworld. You get to play as Bowser as well. It's been a long time since he had been playable in an RPG in the Mario series. Like, I think the last time he was actually playable, not counting his playable appearance in Super Paper Mario, like the last time he was playable in a turn-based Mario game was way back in like 1995, 96 with Super Mario RPG. So, it's been a long time coming, but, from that perspective, it was pretty cool. But there's just something about this game that I didn't find it very funny, which is a shame, because Mario and Luigi games usually have some pretty funny dialogue to them and just little circumstances. The Mario Brothers pantomime everything, so, they themselves only can react so much, but they're just... I don't really have the best way of explaining why I'm not a fan of this game, but I just was not a fan of playing it. It didn't click with me. It was not a satisfying game to play through. And it's a shame because on the original DS hardware, it is one of the better looking, like, it's all 2D, these really well animated sprites that they made. Everything's all very detailed backgrounds and everything. It's all this great pixel art. It's fantastic. Game looks amazing. And the giant battles with the DS controls where you have to use like the touch screen and like the microphone to do stuff. It's a fun idea. But there's just something it's one of those things, like, even all these years later, I'm still not quite sure why I don't like this game that much, because it has things to it that I feel like I would like and would love, but it just didn't do anything for me. And for it being a Mario game that didn't do anything, that's a big failure in my book. So that's why it's on the least favorite list. It's not a bad game by any means. There's nothing inherently wrong with it. And a lot of people, say this is one of the best Mario and Luigi games, but it did nothing for me. It really didn't. So it's on the least favorite. It's one that I've regretted kind of playing ever since, but not as much as some of the other ones that I've talked about. But yeah, I have no desire to ever try and replay this game or pick it up again. So I expect the angry mob will be on my front door tomorrow morning to put me on the stake and burn me like a witch.
And that's Yangus's inside story.
Yep. All right. Well, before that happens, though, Platty, what's your number 4 on your list?
Okay, screw this game. Undertale. You know what? This isn't the 1920s. Why do we got a black and white video game out there? Like,
with the battle sprites. Yep.
Yeah. And why do I need a game to be dodging bullets? Like, I didn't do anything wrong. Why am I in bullet hell? Undertale was a game that I heard people either praise it or I heard people bash the community of people that liked it. I looked at it once or twice, was like, I'm never playing this. No, this is not a me game. But then I got my Vita, and I had a 4th grade kid, just bug the heck of me. Just, oh, you gotta play it. You gotta play it. Come on, man. You gotta play it. And I think it was like under $5 one day over the summer. And I was like, oh, How Long to Beat says this is what, a 5-7 hour game. Like, I can do that. I can suffer through that. And you know what? I am not into the too much esoteric stuff in there. Like, I play a game like me hero, you bad guy, you die. Like, what did I complain about the Bravely games at one point? Like, I just want the fucking enemies to die when I kill them.
Yep.
Not pop up and be like, ha ha ha, good showing, we'll get you later. Like, no, yeah. I killed you, I beat you, die.
Yeah, like, due to this circumstance, we are not dead. Ha ha.
Yeah. And like that, there's a point of this game, like, somewhat, I guess, like, don't kill them. Like, there's the complete what's the run where the pacifist run.
Yeah, the pacifist.
Like, well, I'm sure as hell knew it not doing that, and I'm sure as hell not going through a genocide run because I ain't got time for that. So I just kind of generally went through and fought a flower at the end and was like, okay, that's the end of that. I don't know. I think I missed the meme generation where this would make more sense to me, or I'm not as in touch with, the big picture. I don't know what the big picture is here, but apparently I missed it.
You're not like Steve Buscemi walking in the school and being like, "How do you do, fellow kids?" Like that classic meme. You know what I'm talking about, don't you?
Nope.
I
missed that meme.
Oh, that's a classic one. It's just him, like, it's from a TV show. He comes walking into this school. He's got a skateboard on his back. He's got like a hat, backwards hat.
Oh, okay.
Like, how do you do, fellow kids?
Yep, that's. I think I would have needed to be that to get more enjoyment out of this. Either that, or just be one of those people online that cares a lot more about things than me.
Man, I thought
uncaring, heartless, cruel person.
Well, I thought I was going to die. I don't think you're going to live to see tomorrow morning, Platty, after that. So you better lock your doors and keep sleeping with one eye open tonight.
Hey, you know what they say in Florida? We all got an alligator or a shotgun in our house somewhere.
I just saw an article about about a Florida man earlier. Maybe it was about you.
It might have been. You getting newspapers from the future?
Yeah. It's a whole Back to the Future kind of scenario, like the timeline's getting changed and everything.
There you go.
But yeah, like just real quick, I'll say, like, I played Undertale. First time I played it, I was like, okay, whatever. This really wasn't all the hype up it was to be. I gave it another shot, and I liked it more that time. But at the same time, it still wasn't a game where I was like, I wasn't like, oh my god, this game it's amazing, it's fantastic and stuff. It is all right. It's okay. Had some fun stuff to it. Probably the best part of that game is the Skeleton Brothers, Sans and Papyrus.
I do like Sans. Then again, my love of Comic Sans is, probably to blame for that.
Was very, like, I remember when I first played that game, like, funny enough, those two reminded me of you and me. We are sometimes. Now, which one of us is which, I'll leave that up to audience interpretation. But yeah, that was just a game where I was okay on it too. But yeah, I remember you messaging, I think it was either me or like all of us, and you were just like, oh, fuck this game. What am I doing? What am I doing?
Well, that's just not that was not a me battle system. That was not a me graphics. That was, I needed to care more about the story and the deeper implications, and I didn't at the time. Maybe it was where I played. I played that entire game sitting in the science lab desk after camp for like 2 weeks straight. My kids were at summer camp, so I was like, okay, I'm done with camp every day at noon, but my son's not done till 3, so I'll just sit here for 3 hours. And I tried to put an hour of that every day and an hour of whatever else I was playing, but that got rough.
Yeah. Well, it's never fun when you got to drag your feet through it too, but you gave it a shot. So I guess
again, a game I probably should have been after an hour. Like, hey, this isn't for me.
Yeah.
Instead of the 5 hours, 6 hours, 7 hours of resentment that came later.
Well, speaking of hours of resentment, let me go on to my number 4. So this is a game that we kind of talked about yesterday, off the side when it came to music, because that's one of the few things of this game I actually really did like. The rest of it though can go to hell, and that is Bravely Default 2.
Oh, I knew this one was going to be on your list.
Oh my god. So some of you who've listened to us, you probably know I'm a big fan of the original Bravely Default game. All of its flaws and rough edges, everything. I thought the game was just a lot of fun. I really enjoyed how things were handled in it. I mean, the repetitive stuff, it's, take it or leave it. I wasn't really bothered by it. It didn't really, ruin my enjoyment of the game. Personally, I was just like, hey, more of the game to play. Great, awesome. I love this battle system. It's fantastic. But Bravely Second was one that I liked it. Okay. There's some of the writing in that one I just not a fan of, but I still, at the end of the day, I still enjoyed the game. It wasn't quite the same as the first one, but it had a good moment. It had its good. I can't talk. It had its good moments. Just some really great story bits from some of the side quests, especially later in the game, but just wasn't for me. But wasn't one that I hated. Bravely Default 2. This is a game that I feel like I got bamboozled with because at first when I played it, we got the original demo for it, and I was like, oh, this demo, the game's really different, but this is a fun idea. It's more challenging, kind of cool. The next demo comes out a few months later after some feedback from fans. And playing that demo, I was like, this is fun still, I think. Like, I think I'm liking this. There seems to be a lot of more challenge with some of these bosses for it seeming to be early in the game, but okay, whatever. Probably make more sense and be a little easier when you get the full game itself. Then with the full game itself comes out. And even though I got to the end, and I did the multiple endings, because you have to, apparently every time you think you beat the game's like, oh, just kidding, you actually didn't beat the game. That was just a hypothetical what if scenario. Like, what if you had beaten the game? And just fuck this game. Like, I just got so burnt out on it. And it really just did not have the elements of Bravely Default that I liked. I was thinking like, oh, okay, this is going to be more of like a return to form for the first game. And it really just didn't feel like, there are certain points of the game where it felt like the first one. Like as soon as I got to that portion of it, YsVIII, which I think is chapter 2, or I think it's chapter 2 of the game, if I remember right. You get back to the Elvis's homeland. You have this forest that's covered in this strange fog and mist, and all of these strange circumstances are starting to happen in this town of YsVIII. And a lot of the elements that happen in this portion of the game were making me go like, oh, this is what I was expecting from a Bravely Default game. Like, you have these characters that are like these NPCs who are in control of the Asterisks, who have their own little stories. They have their connections with one another. They get that build up. You get some of these details as you fight them. It was reminding me a lot of the first Bravely Default game, because that's kind of how that setup was, where a lot of those things were optional, and you get to learn more about these major NPCs that are in control of these other job classes. I like how that was handled, and YsVIII was feeling like that. The rest of the game, honestly, like even now talking about it and kind of remembering stuff, I couldn't tell you anything about half of the asterisk wielders, other than that, they had, this job class and they were your enemy. Like, there's nothing about them that really stood out to me, other than a select few, like the YsVIII ones, or the little girl from the the desert town, where she was in control of, where she's like the Beastmaster class. But I think that was mainly because the Beastmaster class is just so broken. Like, it just totally breaks the game's difficulty in half if you level it up all the way. But that's the thing, too, that I am not a fan of at all with Bravely Default 2. It's how it handles its boss encounters. Like, this has got to be a game that has some of the most difficult and annoying boss counters I've faced in an RPG that I've played. And it's because, like, especially as you get later in the game, any sort of attack or skill that you use, the boss will counter it somehow. They'll get an extra BP point so they can use another turn when it comes time for their action. They'll silence your character. They'll blind your character. They'll poison your character. They'll steal one of your turn actions. They'll lower your defense. They'll basically like throw everything in the kitchen sink at you if you so much as breathe at them. It just gets ridiculous, and you just kind of like, the whole point of these games is to use the job class system to your advantage. Take the fight to them, or like throw their own stuff back at them. But it's really difficult to properly do that. Like, there's no like sort of setup where it tells you like, this character who's in control of this job class is known to really hate it when he hears like an example would be the Bard character from the beginning of or from one of the first parts of the game. Like, there should have been some sort of setup where it's like he's not really a fan of spellcasters. Like, someone was trying to practice their white magic or their black magic, and he suddenly went into a fit and silenced them. Nobody knows why he did it. That could have been like a build up to like, hey, when you get to that boss fight, be careful using spells, or like have a way to counter that. And there's just not that build up or that sort of player intuition / kind of foreshadowing, like some other RPGs will do. They'll be like, if this boss, it's getting in this position, you don't want to attack it then. Like Final Fantasy does that with some of its first bosses. It's like, if they do this action, be careful, don't attack it, or gives you the idea of like, pay attention to the signs, or pay attention to what you're going to do. And just really, this game just felt like a slog. Like, I know I've talked about this game plenty in the past. I don't want to keep talking about it too long, but
if you want to hear more Yangus hatred of this game, go back to Games We Love to Hate last February.
Yeah, it's like, I don't think, and it bugs the shit out of me too, that Square Enix has not once updated this game on the Nintendo Switch hardware to try and fix some of the issues that it has. Because one of the things that almost made me just completely just give up on trying to even finish the game was a time where I had not one, not two, but 3 songs all looping on top of each other, all different songs. It was just the worst sound. I had to reset the console, and it didn't do it again, thankfully. But I couldn't hear what was going on. It just was like, I had to turn my TV down like completely and mute the TV, because otherwise it sounded like someone was going like it. There's just a lot of problems with this game, and honestly, at this point, I just kind of hope they don't do another Bravely game. Just remaster the first one, bring it out on newer systems, find a way to cut down on the repetitiveness of the end game. Just don't make a new one, please. You can't do it.
I was looking forward to Bravely 3rd, 4 or something like that. Just keep going. Name shit. Naming conventions be damned.
Yeah, and I didn't think that there was stuff that everything was bad about this game by any means, but I just did not have fun playing it, and that's my big thing, is that if I'm not having fun playing it, then like, what am I even doing? Like, I just beat it out of obligation because we were, it came out and we were both excited for it. We're going to do that.
This was our Bravely Dragon, or Double Dragon Race.
Yeah.
Maybe because you were playing like a dragon too, and that game was like way better.
It's funny because we both had like the opposite reaction. Like you really liked Bravely Default 2.
I did, yeah.
We're just kind of meh on Like a Dragon, just because lots of cutscenes, all that, being PS4, all that stuff.
Sitting on the couch, falling asleep every night playing that game.
Yep. And I was like complete opposite, where I really got into Like a Dragon and loved it, and then when it came to Bravely Default 2, I was like, this is really boring. This is like I got nothing against a game that's light on story or anything, but when this is a second game in a sequel, or a a second game in a series where the past two have done a really good job establishing its characters and world and everything. And this game just kind of is like, they're bad. Just go beat them. It's kind of sucks. Just to put it kind of bluntly. But yeah, I'll stop talking about that one. All right, we got one more game each. What's your last one? What's your last one first?
You can probably guess because you reminded me of it.
So that happened before we started recording the episode. Actually, it happened yesterday. I had been playing the new Theatrhythm Final Fantasy game on the Switch, and I made a comment that I got to this game's music. The only response we got from our friend Platty was,
"Oh shit,"
and no other context. But now tonight, we got to find out what it is. So, Platty, please tell the audience what Final Fantasy game it is.
It's, oh shit, it's Final Fantasy XII. And much like your Dragon Quest, you know what? I'm going to give people a little bit more than your Dragon Quest IX. All I'm going to say is after the high of highs that I had from Final Fantasy X and Blitzball, I had to play this piece of shit. Because thank you, Dragon Quest VIII, for putting the demo disc in the Dragon Quest VIII box. And that demo being relatively like, I could do this again. Then I realized this game doesn't have Blitzball, and it plays its goddamn self. And I was done. I beat it. I beat it out of obligation because, by golly, I spent $60 on it. And hell, today I'd probably do that too. But especially back in 2004, 5, 6, whenever this bastard of a game came out, paying $60, by golly, I was going to frickin' put the time into it and get it done. So I did. I mean, again, there were like the other games that we've said that we disliked. There were fine parts. I did like the bounty board or something like that, and the this wasn't the sphere grid. 10 was the sphere grid,
no.
But whatever this one did with the leveling, it was pretty. I did like that, and whatever. Maybe you know what? And people have told me, oh, you should try like the upgraded, the international version, the better version that went out elsewhere. I'm like, no. The game still plays itself. Screw that. The end. It was not a me game. I was, oh my God, the walking around I remember, and here I'm already talking too much about it. I just remember walking forever, there always being enemies around, putting down the damn controller to answer the door on Halloween, putting down the controller to go cook dinner, putting down the controller to go to the bathroom. Like, it would just, I'd come back and be like, look, they're still fighting, cool. What I miss. I needed a little bit more engagement here.
Yep.
I need to get it.
Some people love the Gambit system. Some people are just like, they don't enjoy it at all, because they like having that full control. And, I totally get it. I personally liked Final Fantasy XII when I was playing through it, and I need to get back to playing it because I'm sure Platty just hates me for it, but I actually was enjoying it.
You know what, though? I will say the Gambit system wasn't a bad idea. I think it's actually really cool to be able to set that all up so it can play by itself. Mm-hmm. But the second you do that, ruined it. That was, having that perfect setup was like, why do I need to be here?
Yep.
Yeah, it's like a manager of a company. I might as well just franchise this fucker out at this point. I don't need to be here.
It's like it just needed just a little. Like I would agree with you too. Like there's some stuff about the Gambit system that I've liked, but other stuff it's like, I think this needs just like a little more fine tuning. Mm-hmm. I don't know if it ever will come back into another Final Fantasy game, but yeah, no. Like if people who don't like this game, like after playing it myself, like I totally get why like this game wouldn't click with you or with other people. It didn't bother me that much, but I totally understand if someone was just like, oh, fuck this game, like it plays itself. What the hell?
All right. Well, I'll keep that one short and sweet. I asked the game, what was its good points, and it didn't tell me any. So, oh well. I'm like, you can play yourself. Tell me what you're doing. It's no Chat GPT. I'll tell you that.
All the characters just look at the screen and shrug.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So for my last one, this is just a real quick one. I originally wasn't sure what I wanted to put for my last one, but then I suddenly remembered this game from like way back when I first got my Switch. It's a game called Plague Road. It was a game that popped up on sale for like under, I think it was 99 cents or for $1 exactly. And I was like, hey guys, there's this RPG this turn-based RPG that's on sale. And I remember it was Drippy who was like, well, yeah, I mean, you can get like a lot of better things for $1 than that, or some sort of comment like that. And I was like, well, it can't be that bad. Like it's probably going to be, decent enough. It's on such a good sale. Oh no, it's fucking bad. To quote myself from earlier, oh, it's fucking bad. So this is a game that I can only describe as visual diarrhea. So the colors are these obnoxiously bright, like oranges and yellows and greens and stuff. Okay. So for context, this game is about a plague doctor who's like, I think he's trying to stop the plague, or he's dressed like an old plague doctor. He's like traveling along, trying to help people or cure people. I don't remember what the plot is, but this game had like the jankiest animations. The menus were glitchy from what I remember, and the combat was this sort of combination of like strategy RPG, kind of like Fire Emblem, but all of your characters were like none of the character designs were really good, like appealing designs, except for the design of like the lead plague doctor character, because he had that that cool like big long bird mask. He had the not bowler hat, but like one of those hats with like a big rim on it all around. I don't know what the proper name for that one would be. Like he had kind of this cool look like in this dystopia kind of world, but the game just looked ugly and it just played super awkwardly. Like I played it. I think I maybe played it for 30 minutes and was like, nope, done. Not playing it anymore. That's the only game on here that I, from my bad list, that I did not beat. Just because I was like, nope, done. I tried. Whatever. Dollar wasted, I guess.
So, yeah, the only one I never beat was my SaGa games. All of them. But what was this called? Plague Road or Plague...
I think it's Plague Road. Like it's probably on my Switch purchase history. But I found out the developers of it have put out a lot of other shitty games like this too, where they're really glitchy or broken, or just like there's stuff that pops up that makes them impossible to beat. So it's like, well, it explained then why so many of them go on sale for such low prices.
Hey man, this was on Vita too.
Yep. Did you find it?
Yeah, it's got one. Let's see. It has one review for the Vita. That review is a 42 out of 100.
Ooh, that's generous. Yeah, this was a game that I actually just thought about just before we started recording this, and I was just like, oh my god, I remembered that game. I hated that game. It's perfect.
Oh, this is great. The blurb here is awesome. Plague Road looks great. And that in itself is an accomplishment. But it's also the sort of thing that can be appreciated in screenshots, since once you get to playing, you may find that it ruins the overall experience.
Yeah, it's perfect. Honestly, that is perfect. That is the perfect way
Playing the game ruins the experience. That's great.
Yep. It's a visual eyesore. It's very generous of this person to say, "Oh, it looks good." No.
Let's see, did anybody ever review the Switch one? Oh, the Switch did get 3 reviews at 50, 60, and 70.
Oh my god, that's way too generous. It's like the Ice Climbers thing all over again, though. Maybe I'm just in the wrong here. But,
yeah. Ice Climbers number 33 or whatever out of 100.
Yep. Oh, well, whatever. I did not like this game. This is a game that I was like, well, sometimes I've bought games on the cheap on the eShop, and I'm just like, okay, whatever. This is one of those ones where it's like, I kind of want that $1 back. But all right, that's enough of the negative, though. I think we should move on.
On to the wonderful games.
Onto the meh. We got to go to the meh. We got to get to the middle of not the sandwich, because the middle of the sandwich is the best part, but the middle of the I don't know, the pancake stack. I don't know. They're the okay pancakes, or I don't know. Bad analogy aside. All right, what do you got for?
Okay.
So So before we get started, I will admit for all of mine, I don't have a whole lot to say. So I don't know how much you have to say for your meh ones, but I'm good with just firing them all off. Just boom, 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 boom. Just talk about them real quick.
All right. So, I don't want to get death threats. So this is the death threat portion of my thing here. Like these are some games. These are some games I put on this list.
Now, people are going to stop listening after whatever your first one is.
Yeah, you're never going to hear.
If they haven't stopped listening already.
If they haven't stopped listening already, I'll start with the was it the slow ball right up down the middle or something like that. So, game number 1 on my Mega fucking Neptunia, Megadimension Neptunia V-II.
Oh my god!
First of all,
I can't believe that's a meh one for you.
Oh, you know what? I really tried for about 2 years to give Neptunia everything I could. Like, give it the benefit of the doubt.
Yep.
I played some crappy ones, and then I played Hyperdimension Neptunia U Unleashed or whatever. And it was a budget title Muso game. Like, yeah, you're fighting 100 people, but the thing's like chugging along and there's no backgrounds. Like the texture of the ground is like all you see other than the enemies. And I beat it in like 8 hours. I'm like, that was fine. It was a little fun Muso game. And then I took the review for Megadimension Neptunia VII on the Switch. And you know what? Really, everything here is symptomatic of the whole series. There's just so much fucking stupid shit dialogue in these games. And it's all inane. Oh, blah, 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 blah. Oh my God. Like, and I have had to quit games because I've skipped through dialogue and then I don't know where to go. And I'm like, well, screw that. I'm done with this one. Same thing kind of happened here. I made it 5 hours into this game and the battle system, the encounter rate was ridiculous. The battle system kept adding new stuff. I'm like 5 hours in. What the hell are you adding to the battle system at this point? And it was like, oh, and now you can do this and you got to do this. And I'm like, oh my God, this is a freaking budget title game. Like, how many battle things are going on here? And it just, then I read, like, I was just on the first world of like 4 and like the gameplay kind of changed at each world. I'm like, no, I'm not. No. This is average to below average series. This is average to below average every game, and they just make it worse by throwing so much fucking dialogue and so many freaking gameplay systems that shouldn't really matter, but ridiculously do, but not in a good way. So Neptunia, all Neptunia, screw y'all. Meh. And it's not like I hate it. Like I had fun for a few hours, but I can't, like, I wouldn't call these games to hate because they're made to be budget titles and they're made to be meh. Mm-hmm. And they are. There's just too much meh here. I can't get through that much meh. So, well.
There's only so much time for meh. All right. For my first one here, going to go back to the original game of this series, the first Dragon Quest game. So this is one that it is meh, but I do like it. So I want to make that clear. If this is one of those games where if I want an RPG fix, but I don't want to play something that's like going to take me forever, like this is one that I'll pick up and play every now and then because it's like, oh, you know, Dragon Quest 1, that only takes, especially with recent versions, it only takes a few hours to beat it. You know, you can have it done in a weekend or something like that, if even that. It's a simple, you know, one character adventure. You know, you're traveling around, you have this semi-open world that you can go around in and you know, you're trying to save the princess, you know, defeat the Dragon Lord, all that basic stuff. And it's one that, you know, if I just need a little bit of an RPG fix, you know, I'll play that one. It's not super deep, even by today, you know. Even back then, I don't think it was that deep. I don't know. I didn't grow up with playing this game originally on the NES, so, you know, I can't speak for that kind of experience. But even then, you know, I still really enjoy replaying the game every once in a while. You know, if I get that Dragon Quest urge, but I don't want to play something that's going to take me, you know, super long time. And, you know, it's just a fun, simple little RPG from the NES era. It's much easier to play now than it was, you know, back in the day because you don't have to grind quite as much. But, yeah, just... that's all I really got to say. It's, you know, Dragon Quest 1. You know, you're either going to love it or you're going to be like, it's fine.
Yeah, I don't see anybody out there putting this on a top 10 list of best, you know, historic, yes, meaningful, yes, but in this day and age, you're not going to, holy fucking shit, this is the game that got me into Dragon Quest in 2023.
Yep.
So, all right, you ready for this one?
Should I be prepared?
You should be prepared.
All right.
You know, I was bound to bring this game up at some point.
I should have known.
I mean, so we'll go back. You went back to NES days. I'm going to go back to SNES games for a couple minutes here. Earthbound.
Oh my God! All right, send your angry hate mail to Platty, everybody.
Yep. That's Slimetime Podcast at gmail.com.
This is a special request from Yangus. Emergency.
Just put cancel Platty in the title. You don't need to say anything else. I'll know what it means. There you go.
I'll call in. So he's our cancel guy.
I gave this game a fair shot. What is it? Right before the pandemic hit. So like 3 years ago, right about now, I was playing it for an RPG backtrack episode, and I think I made it a dozen hours in. Mm-hmm. I got to town 4. No, I'm in the desert. I did not cross the desert all the way. So what is that, between town 3 and 4?
Yeah, you got to the Dusty Dune Desert, which is right before Fourside.
Okay, so that's where my quest ended. I died in a desert. My bones will be found there. Bound to the earth forevermore. I mean, you know what? It was okay. Again, I didn't hate it. It was just, I get it. This is a SNES game from the 90s, and I think after 10 hours, if I didn't have a backlog of 100 other modern games, maybe I'd keep playing this. And you know what? Maybe back in the SNES days, had I grabbed that game, it probably would have been one I played, because that was the type of games I played back then. But now playing it too late, I think, just kind of like you with Dragon Quest. It's not the one to play in the series right now. I'm like, it was fine, but I had a different time with it. I now know what it is. I see half of it or whatever.
Yep. Well, remember, everybody, just send your angry letters to
That is slimetimepodcast at gmail.com. Hashtag cancel Platty.
Yep. It's too late. You're just gonna be gone. Just gone. All right. Well, we're gonna take a little detour for mine. We're gonna go someplace a little more tropical, because we're gonna go to YsVIII, Lacrimosa of Donna. So
whoa.
Yeah, curveball there probably for you. Hey, Platty.
Wow. I know. Q never saw it coming.
So
go ahead.
So I will make it clear, I don't hate this game by any means. I think it's a really solid entry in the Ys franchise. But my experience with this game has really been shattered because of an event that happened in, I think it was 2021, the summer of 2021, or I think that's when it happened. I remember I just remember I was
okay.
You remember what happened. So.
I now get the context of this.
Yes. So I had really gotten back into the game after having not played it for a while on my Vita, because that's the original version of the game that I had. And I was really, enjoying my time with the game. I thought I was having a lot of fun playing it again, experiencing, just exploring this big island that Adol and friends are trapped on. And, learning about the past of Donna's people and her history. And I was getting fairly far into the game as I was playing it over the summer when I picked it back up. And then, for some godforsaken reason, my Vita's memory card completely glitched out. I lost all my data for the game, like 30 plus hours of playing, and I just have never once felt motivated to go back and actually try and play through the game again. I tried on the PS4. I tried so hard, but I just was like, oh my God, I just don't want to play through this again. And it sucks because it's a really fun controlling game. It has, they took a lot of the gameplay elements from the previous Ys games, really, improved on them. You have a fun, colorful cast of characters. Nothing that's quite as text heavy as some other Falcom games, but it's just it's unfortunately just one of those games that I just cannot bring myself to go back to and play it, to try and actually beat it on my PS4 or something. I see it on sale for Switch all the time, but even then it's I can't. It's just, after what happened with my save file and losing so much progress from that summer, is just no, I can't. It's a wound that I'm not gonna go. It's a wound that has not healed. So,
man,
it's on the
What's
map,
funny is I started playing this in January. I got about 8 hours into it or something right at the beginning of February before I got a game to review, and suddenly had to switch gears for a while. But this is one I'm going to come back to this year. It is. I began 3 different games in December, January that I need to come back to. And this is definitely one. I've never played an Ys game before. I've enjoyed my first 5-6 hours, but who knows? I will say though, if I lost progress at this, I would not load it up again. So
yeah, maybe someday.
I'm only 5 hours in. If my 5 hours disappeared, I don't think I'd go back to it. But So that's why this one's on the meh list. The game itself, nothing wrong with it. It's fine. It's a fun entry in the series, but it's just a personal thing, man. I just can't go back to it. Right. Maybe one day, but not that day is not anytime soon. But what do you got next? What do you got next for us, Platty? Well, I'll stay in the SNES era, and trigger warning here.
You know what's funny? I was just about to guess that.
Chrono Trigger.
Platty's gonna die.
This is the only game actually on my mail list that I beat. And you know what? It's fine. It's fine. It was a game. And I played Lufia next, and I really liked Lufia, and I played Lufia 2, Rise of the Sinistrals, and I really loved that game. And then I played some GBA game over that. And you know what? I don't think this was even the best game that I played in a 3-month period that summer. Because I didn't play this game until like 2002, 2003.
Oh.
I think this is when I played Lord of the Rings, the Two Ages GBA tactical game. And and I kind of like that game. Like, there was nothing wrong with Chrono Cross. It was just another game. It was like,
do you mean Trigger?
Oh, Trigger. No, I played Chrono Cross later, and I really love Chrono Cross.
Oh,
like
man,
I have good memories from Chrono Cross. Chrono Trigger, it's like I played it. I do remember playing it. Like, and I was fixated for a while on it because it's got the blonde hair girl from the past, Ayla, in the game, and she's 100% ripped from this book series called, I want to say Earth's Children by like Jean M. Auel, Auel or something like that.
Yeah. I know what series you're talking about. Yeah.
At Clan of the Cave Bear, there was a movie in the 80s starring it. And back in those days, I had a lot of free time and I would listen to books on tape for ages. And really, the only reason I ever listened to these books is because I was in the library one day, and I'm like, what's the biggest frickin' book they got on tape? And I was like, look at this fucker. It's like 30 cassette tapes here. Double-sided. Hell yeah. I'm going to be listening to 45 hours of this book. And it was Clan of the Cave Bear. And then I listened to the other ones. And I don't think I've ever listened to anything else, a prehistory book about Neanderthals and whatever. It was a drama set in Neanderthal and Cro-Magnon time. So interesting at the time just to sit and listen to these, like, they're probably like 1,000-page books. They're gigantic books, but really it was like, oh, hey, there's a Chrono Trigger character named Ayla, a blonde from the ancient past. That was what this girl is in the book. And that's my biggest memory of Chrono Trigger. Ayla.
Man. I'll tell you what, Penny's not going to talk to us after this episode.
I don't think anybody's going to talk to us after this episode.
No, I don't think so. I think we're just going to be on the shit list for life.
Yep. I wonder if I could block RP Gamer cohorts from hearing this one.
Well,
they kicked off that site.
They're gonna be like, you have some explaining to do, young man.
Yep. Sorry, my history lessons are shit.
That's why you're a math teacher and a computer teacher.
Yep. I'm not teaching any ancient history because. Yep. Oh boy.
All right, well, I'll just do, I got an Atlas doubleheader coming up for this one. So for my next Meh one, I'm going to talk about Persona 4 and 5. So wow. I know I had my
double barrel.
I know, yeah. I know I had my big old rant about this back when we did the games we hate or love to hate, whatever we call that episode. Mm-hmm. And even though, I had some pretty choice words about the community for these games, I don't think the games themselves are bad. Like, they're not for me. Like, I totally will be flat out front with it. They're not for me. But that doesn't mean that I hate everything about them. Like, the combat is still that same fun Atlas Shin Megami Tensei style combat. And it's very enjoyable. And so is creating your own personas. When you're seeing all these different creatures that, they're demons in the main series, they're personas here. But, they're still familiar faces. And you're like, oh, this is, Anubis, or this is a Bugbear. This is, good old Jack Frost. So there's that sense of familiarity with that one. And I do like some of the characters and some of the story stuff from these games. But at the same time, it was one of those games where, like, it just took me several months to beat them. I enjoyed my time with them, but it's really it just comes down to the fan base. It's totally soured my opinion of this franchise as a whole and but I am meh about the games themselves because I played through them, I beat them. I thought there were, the main ones were okay. 5 had some pretty enjoyable spots. It was a good looking game, had some nice style to it, and the combat, and dungeon exploration felt like a real big step up from 4 and 5. And 4, even though it's just I'm kind of whatever about its characters, other than a small handful of them, there was still stuff that I enjoyed about it, like the TV world aspect and how it's the characters sort of confronting that other side of themselves. Stuff they're not necessarily want to think about. It's all relatable stuff, but just they're just aren't for me. And I will, I'll be completely honest up front about it. I have my issues with them, I get joked about with them. I joke about them. People joke about them with me, just how it goes. But I do want to make it clear that I do not hate the games themselves. They're just like 4 and 5. They're just meh. They're not for me. So just leave it at that.
So you never saw this coming. But one of those games was going to be on my top list until I realized I couldn't count to 5 correctly, and I had 6 games there.
Oh, that was the mystery one. Okay.
That was the one that I cut. I cut Persona 4 Golden off my top 5 list.
Oh, I thought you were going to say 5 because you made the joke of you never saw it coming. So I'm like, oh, he's going to be.
Well, I mean,
5.
you put both games together. Why can't I put both of them together to make a joke?
This is true. Very true.
You never saw that coming. You really didn't
true.
see it coming because I did an end around.
This whole episode is just full of curveballs.
Dodge to the 4. Oh, that was a curveball completely. So
this whole episode is just nothing but curveballs.
It really is. And I'm gonna walk out my door tomorrow and get hit by curveballs from people throwing shit at me, rotten tomatoes and whatnot. All right, well, this might be the game that gets you to throw a curveball and knock me in the back of the head, but. There was a really fun game that I started up like last year, I want to say, maybe 2 years ago, on the Switch. I had my misgivings because I'd avoided it for 20 years and the series for like 15, 20, something like that. And, I was like, man, this is a fun little card game, and played a card game for a while at the beginning. And then I walked out of the city in FFIX and started having those ATV battles, and I died a lot. I don't know how I died so much. I died the laughter is actually the appropriate response here, because seriously, how the fuck could I die 5, 6, 7 times in 2 hours in Final Fantasy IX? Getting party wipes in the opening chapter story, here, learn to play this game. You died. You know what? Had I kept with it and got the muscle memory with the action time battle or whatever, I'm sure it would have been a much better experience. And this is actually one I think I would go back to someday with the better mind frame, or like you said, just turn on all the cheats for a bit and then just experience the story. Because I wanted to play the card game more. I was like, why wasn't this a game? Damn it! Maybe that's what I should have Pratchett. It's a card game with some battles to get through to the next card game.
There you go.
It can just be my SteamWorld Quest Part 2.
There you go.
FS/FX9. So to me, it's the active time battle system. Honestly, I didn't even have a problem with the graphics. I know I hate PS1. I didn't even get far enough into this for that to be an issue. It was, man, I really suck at active time battle systems.
It's okay, Platty. I don't hate you. I'm just going to write you a strongly worded letter.
Yeah, this is more of the meh. I'm ashamed of myself.
Well, it's like what we said for the other one. You gave it a shot, so
I did give it a shot.
You gave it the college try, and I'm proud of you for doing that. Since I know you're kind of meh about the ATB stuff, so you know what? I'll give you kudos for that.
I don't deserve them, but thank you.
All right. Okay. Well, I'll go on to my next one here. Again, this one's going to be pretty quick and short and sweet. It's Shin Megami Tensei Nocturne.
Oh.
So, I'm a big fan of the mainline Shin Megami Tensei games and most of the other titles. And Nocturne was one that I played, I think it was 2012 or 2013 the first time I played it. I think it was 2013. I think it was after a year after being in college. I played it during the summer, that summer after my first year of college. And before that, I had played Shin Megami Tensei Strange Journey, played one of the other ones, I believe, and I really enjoyed those ones. And I heard Nocturne was one that was a real big fan favorite. And I'm like, oh, cool. Give this one a try. We'll see how it is. And I like the game. It's one that I picked up the HD remaster on my Switch, and I've revisited it a few times over the years, both before the remaster and after. It's one of those games that I can play it for a little while and then just put it aside, play it for a while on the side. Reason why it's on the meh list is because I like the game, but I don't like it quite as much as I do Strange Journey or Shin Megami Tensei 4 or the recent entry Shin Megami Tensei 5, because it's nothing against the game itself. It's perfectly fine, but it's one that I think I kind of liked how Strange Journey and 4 handled its character and story stuff a bit more. Whereas with Nocturne, I've come to appreciate it more the older I've gotten, where it's more of a minimalist kind of story, where it's more about you explore the world, you kind of learn these details by talking to NPCs, or you do some of the side quests. Kind of gives you a little more info, sort of kind of Dark Souls kind of storytelling, where it just gives you a little bit of info here and there. You kind of fill in the blanks yourself, some of the breadcrumbs that you get fed throughout the game. But this is one I just put on the meh one just because, again, I like the elements of it, but to me, I just enjoy playing other games from the series a bit more. Mm-hmm. It just just different things that some of the ones like Strange Journey does that I like a bit more, like with SMT4, with how it handles its press turn combat system. And 5 especially, like 5 feels like, they took ideas that they were originally going to do at Nocturne, and they were like, you know what? We got better hardware. We've got, more experience now of making games. We're going to try and do that. And that's what, not 5 feels like kind of what they wanted to originally do with Nocturne. And Nocturne itself still holds up very well. It's probably a little awkward for some more recent Atlas RPG fan / players, but still a very solid, very good game from the series, and one that has a lot of style and personality to it, and a really good atmosphere. But to me, it's just kind of middle of the road, only because it's one that I really just don't remember much of the characters or the plot for this one. I like exploring. I love the combat. That's really good. But it's one of those things where it's kind of good and the bad. So hence why it's on my meh list. Still, I would still recommend it, if you're looking to play one of these games. But just for me personally, it's just kind of meh, middle of the road. But yeah, there we go. What do you got?
Oh man, I can't wait to open that one. Woo-wee. I think Yay, meh.
No, I just sold Platty on. He's had that one for a while, and he's been waiting to play it. But you might like it, Platty. I don't know. We'll see.
I have that and the Xenogear #1, the Xenogear the remaster of that first game. I picked them up on a Black Friday deal.
Xenoblade.
Xenoblade Chronicles 1. That's it.
Okay.
Yeah, I picked those up the same Black Friday for maybe $19.99 each, and they are sitting unopened, sitting right next to each other. And I'm like, when I'm going to play one of them. I bought them because those are. I mean, I do enjoy usually SMT games to certain degrees, and I want to see what the heck Xenoblade's all about. Mm-hmm. Probably isn't going to be a me game. I've come to grips with that, but I'll see what it's about. All right, so a game that come to my last meh, and this is something I do want to give another fair shake to, because I hear about it all the time. I think if I were to ask, anybody my age, what are your top 5 RPGs? I bet a game from this series is going to be on there somewhere. We played this in 2019, I believe, our challenge race game.
Oh, sweet! Is it Suikoden?
It is Suikoden. I really don't know what mad me on it, because this is another game I made 10 hours, 12 hours. I got to was it a card game or a dice game in this one? It's dice, isn't it?
Yes. There's a
dice game. Yep. And I remember somebody poisoning the water in a city, and I think I took care of him, and then that was it. And I remember when I stopped, you're like, dude, you're 70% of the way through the game. Just finish it up. I was like, there's people. We're building an army. I know there's 108 people. I got no interest in gathering 108 people. That's a lot. 108. That's a big number. There's some I know I've missed along the way. I'm not really following a guide. I just kind of looking at a bullet point guide, just make sure you go here next. Make sure you go here. And I'm hitting all the story beats there, and it just you know what? It should have hit better for me. And I've listened to a dozen podcasts at this time, all praising this game, the next game, the whole series and everything. And people talk about it so excitedly. I'm like, Chrono Trigger, I can hear people say it's the best game. And I'm like, yeah, I played that. And just, it wasn't for me. And this one, I'm like, I don't think, I got to get to number 2, because apparently 2 is the best. So, and 1 and 2 go together. So the fact that it's got a remaster coming out this year, the fact that it'll be on the Switch, I think, I might not get to it this year, but it is definitely something I'll pick up and give another fair shake at some point. But yeah, it's just I don't really even have much memories about it. I was just going around, and I mean, it's not even that it's PS1, because they didn't try to do no stupid 3D with this. It was pixels and just nice looking pixels and stuff. But I don't, just meh.
Just meh.
Just meh.
Yep.
I just mad out on it.
Yep. The whole
Wrong
thing
time.
is just meh.
Yeah, just like we've said for the past 9 games in a row, and you finish it up with our 10th meh game here.
Yep. And no, I don't remember where you were at that you stopped at, but I do remember making a comment where it's you're almost done. What are you doing? Come on. You're almost done playing. Come on. You can
I probably could have pushed through the weekend and just had it done, but no.
Well,
still on my Vita. I could one day.
Well, this next one of mine is one that I've still been playing on and off, and still kind of mixed on it, but it's one I've enjoyed portions of it. But I figured, we'll just put it on the meh one here, because I still don't have a solid opinion yet, but it's a recent one in my brain. And that is The Lost Child. So this was what I like to call Shin Megami Tensei Light, because it definitely has a lot of elements from Atlus's one of their flagship series, and a lot of Persona stuff related to it as well. Because you got your demons, you got your guy who's a part of this occult magazine that's the chosen one that has to, save Tokyo. You have this angel woman that appears that tries to help aid you, and you have a guy who looks like Igor's long lost twin brother from Persona. But I found it to be a pretty solid dungeon crawler. I do like how the monster mechanics works, where it's a lot of these creatures from folklore, just like Shin Megami Tensei, a little too on the nose, the big long pointy nose, with some of that stuff. But I like how with how it works is you level them up with these points that you earn after battle, like these little energy crystal type things. You give them to your demon party members. They level up that way, and then when they get strong enough, you can then take them to the this ancient temple place, and you can actually then advance them to a new stage of evolution of sorts. So it's kind of like a strange hybrid of Shin Megami Tensei methods plus Pokemon, where they can evolve. It changes up their appearance some. It gives them new skills. It starts them back off at level 1, but it gives them higher stats and stuff. And the story itself was just kind of okay. And it's just like, oh, there's something's going to happen. We need you, the chosen one, to fight for God and save the world. I gotta say, the pink-haired girl that's with you the whole time, she sure loves talking about heaven, angels, and God, like every sentence. it's a little too on the nose. Like, okay, game, I get it. You want me to try and go for a lawful path, but joke's on you. I'm not gonna do that. But it was okay. It's been fine. It's one that I've kind of played on off and on. Like I'm always up for trying a new dungeon crawler, and I've enjoyed the dungeon crawling elements and the combat stuff. It's pretty simple, but it's very satisfying when you can build up your I forget what the meter's called. It's at the very top of the screen that fills up. When you get that to just full enough, and you use it to shoot off this like powerful bullet that can just obliterate enemies. And you have these different bullet types to tear through their weaknesses or just like cause a huge amount of damage to them. So there's some satisfying stuff to it. Just a little rough around the edges, but you know what? I think it's a good idea. Just if this team that made this game, they make another dungeon crawler, maybe not. Don't try and rip off Shin Megami Tensei quite so much. You have some good ideas. Just do your own thing.
Who made this game?
It's some small developer. It was published by NIS America.
Yeah.
They were not the ones who they were not the ones who developed / created the game. They just published it.
And I don't like that their website kind of looks broken here for this one.
Yeah,
I clicked on the website from the eShop, and it's like, well, I don't think they really have a game page anymore for this.
No. So from my understanding, this was made by a small developer who
Katawakawa Games.
Yes. And what was really funny is that right at the beginning of the game, one of his characters from the previous game he made shows up and is like, oh, I see you're new, you're starting this adventure here. You're this chosen one. But, I think you could use a little extra help. And he just gives you a character from the last game that the guy made as a playable demon on your party. He just gives them to you. And the character's like, what am I doing here? All right, I guess I'm working for you now. All right. So you get stupid little moments like that, which I thought was kind of funny. They did that, but yeah, I mean, there's some good ideas here. It's just it's meh, because it's like you should have tried to go for more of your own thing a little more. But it's been fun playing it. Just
oh wait, you know what? It is not Katakawa Games. That was the Japanese publisher. Because I was like, wait a minute, that's Demon Gaze and Relayer and a couple other. My goodness, it's a developer Crim, which doesn't even have a link on Wikipedia. Like, I don't. You know what? I will say, looking at some video of it, it looks like a mixture of I've played an indie. What is that? Infinite Dungeons or something like that.
Yes.
Indie game that was a dungeon crawler. I played a couple of the booby game dungeon crawlers, and I'm like, it kind of looks at that level. It's definitely like second tier dungeon crawler.
Yep.
Obviously it's not by any of those same ones. Interesting.
Yep. I think this was just a small developer's opportunity to make one, and it's okay. Just it's one I would say if you're looking to try it out yourself. Just maybe wait for it to be on a nice little sale.
They did El Shaddai. I have no idea what that game is, but I've heard of it at least. Lost Child, El Shaddai.
That one's the game I think where this where that other character comes from that I was telling you about. The one that's like, he pulls him from that game and just gives him to you as a party member. Which that was actually pretty funny because it just happens out of nowhere where the character shows up from that one. It's like, hey, I see you're a new character here playing this, or not playing this game. He's not quite that fourth wall breaking, but it's pretty like, okay, well, you're the new hero of apparently, so I'm going to help you out here. Let me give you this guy. He's going to be really powerful and help you out now. It just plucks the character from this other game and just is like, here you go, have fun. It was dumb, but it was kind of funny. So, but yeah, that's it for my mech games. I think now it's time to get on to the big. To the final portion of this show, the favorites.
The favorites, the good stuff.
But before we get to that, we have to take our guesses. About who we were debating if we were gonna do this for the entire thing or if we were just gonna do it for the favorites, but we just went for the favorites. So, Platty, I'm gonna have you go first. I want you to try and guess what some of the games are that are on my favorites list.
All right, I think I got two of these nailed: Final Fantasy IV and Dragon Quest VII.
Ooh, you're good. Now, can you guess some of the other ones, though? I'm gonna tell you. I'll tell you this. I'll give you a hint. I did not double dip on series or stuff for the.
So did
favorites.
you? I'm gonna say, and I think you name dropped it earlier too. Oh gosh, what's the SMT game that takes place in Antarctica?
I'm not gonna tell you.
Yeah, damn it! The one that should have been number 3, but it didn't take place in Japan, so they had to. I got it right. It is down there at SMT.
Yeah, you got that part right, but I'm not gonna tell you which one it is. I'll give you a hint. It's the one I said that didn't have a number in it.
I know. That's what I just said. It was the...
You know, it's real strange you don't remember that, Platty.
Oh, Strange Journey. Yes.
Yep. All right, there you go. All right,
and you know, that could have been one of my Meh games because I've tried it a couple times and it's fine. And I've made it 20 hours in. I made it 10 hours in. It's not enough to hook me that much. But okay, so I got 3 of your 5.
You want to try and guess the other 2?
Oh, God. I bet if I put more thought into it before, right just this moment, right now, I might have got another one, but I'm going to stay there. I'm just be like, hey, my 3 guesses, I'm 100%.
All right. So for my guesses for yours, I got a few down here. Right. I actually put these in just before we started recording, so.
You put more forethought into it than me.
All right. Well, the first one, I'm pretty sure. Again, these no particular order. I'm guessing one of them's going to be Persona 4 Golden.
Oh, I told you earlier that was going to be one, but it got bumped.
Oh, it did. Okay. Wow.
It did get bumped. It's like right there at 5A or 6. So okay. It is not going to be one I talk about. But you know what? For the past 2 weeks, it was on my list until I realized I had 6 games on there instead of 5.
You know what? That actually does surprise me because I remember you telling us after you played it that it was one of your favorite
top 5 game. Yep.
Yeah, I remember you telling us that because you messaged me too about that one. And you were like, easily top 5. Okay, so that
I will say there's going to be some recency bias that got that bumped.
Is one of them Octopath 2 then?
Wow. Yes.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay, and I was total shot in the dark on that one there. That's literally one I just thought of just because of what you just said.
And that very recency bias, because here we are recording it. Octopath 2's been out for 6 days, but I've had it for about a month to play the review copy, and it's amazing. I got to finish writing my review, and RP Gamer, spoiler, I'm going to try to go for a 5 out of 5 on here. If I can write a really good review, I'm going to give it a 5 out of 5.
My gosh, we might have to. I still don't have my copy, damn it. So no major
spoilers. I mean, I'll beat around the bush about why I like it. I mean, honestly, it's like the first game, but it tweaks little things, and it just does JRPGs right, man.
All right. Well, that's good to hear. So, okay. So for my other guesses, I'm going to say Dragon Quest VII is one of them. I'm going to say Trails in the Sky, number 3 is one of them. And the last guess I had was Ni no Kuni 2 because of Roland.
So you got the series, but not the games. Although you very much could have, those very well could have. I actually didn't put Dragon Quest VII in there because I'm going job heavy elsewhere.
Really? You didn't
Octopath, yep.
Oh my gosh. I'm surprised you didn't put 7. I figured for sure that was going to be the one game that we both had on our list together.
And honestly, you know what? The Dragon Quest I have on here, my first note is I would have put Dragon Quest 7 on here.
It's probably Dragon Quest 4 then, isn't it?
No.
Oh, damn. Okay. Well, we'll save it for a surprise.
We'll have to sit back and listen then.
Okay. Well, I guess in that case then, maybe we should just go ahead and start going through our lists.
All right. Well, you want to go first there? Switch this up?
Yep. We'll have you. Yeah. I'll go first. You know what? We'll do a little switching here. So I'm going to actually start with a really recent one that's on this list / one that I've played, and that is Live Alive, which I just played for the first time last year, and it was my favorite game of 2022. So I'm not going to go too into detail because we just talked about it on a fairly recent episode, but basically what I really loved about this game was just the premise of, all of these different characters from different time periods. They each have their own experiences, all have their own little gameplay quirks in each chapter. Some of them I really enjoyed, like the Distant Future one, which is basically a sci-fi horror kind of story. You have the Wild West chapter, which has one of my favorite of the playable protagonists with the Sundown Kid. And I just really enjoyed just how simple but strategic some of the combat could be, because you have this grid-based system. Enemies have different strengths and weaknesses to what kind of skills you can hit them with. Your characters also, to whatever skills they have, like it could be like considered like a punch attack or like a slash attack, and if you can work around those weaknesses that enemies have, you can get through combat pretty quick, or just figure out your own strategy, use whatever characters you want to when you get to certain points in the game. And it's one that I really enjoyed when I first played it, was really, enthralled by it. It's one that I started a replay of pretty quick after I beat it the first time, and I actually just finished a replay, or that same replay file, just a few weeks ago, like right around the time of the Super Bowl, where I had finally, finished it off, and I again felt very satisfied after playing it, because it's not a super long game. And to me, that's just, it made for a very good experience. That makes for a fun experience when you get to play an RPG that doesn't take you a super long time, and you get that satisfying conclusion / you feel like you got a full experience out of like this 25 hours 30-hour game without having to play something that goes on for like 80 plus hours. But yes, still really love this game. It is a very recent one, I admit, but it's one that even before...
Hey, it's not that recent. It's like 30 years old.
That is true. If you take that into consideration.
It's a recent 30-year-old game.
It is true. But since I'm basing this off playing the replay, playing the remake, that's why I'm considering like a recent one, because this is one that before I did play it via the remake, it's one that I always had this interest in, because I remember, I think it was in my college years if I remember right, that's when I started learning about some of these Square Enix RPGs that we had never gotten, had some fan translations floating around, and 3 of the ones that I always saw pop up was Bahamut Lagoon, Treasure of the Rudiris. I don't remember the exact name of that.
Rudris, I believe.
Rudris. Thank you. Treasure of Rudris, and the third one was Live Alive. And Live Alive was the one that always stood out the most to me, just because it had those different time periods and everything. It had the different gameplay elements for each chapter. You can play in whatever order you wanted to. And as I learned after playing the game, it was sort of like a prototype of sorts to what they wanted to do for Chrono Trigger. But rather than, with like it's actual time traveling, it was more like, what if these different characters from these different time periods, had their own like adventures, and there's sort of connecting elements to them. So yeah, this is one that I always kind of had interest in. Finally getting to play it, and being super excited for that remake last year. I've loved the game. I still love it, and it's one that it's definitely left an impact on me, and it's one that I'm really glad that we're finally got an official Western release for it, and this this great HD 2D remake, and I'm hoping that it will come out to other consoles in the future. So people who have PC, PS4, whatever, that they'll be able to play it if they don't want to just buy a Switch. But yep, that's my first one for this list. So what do you got for your first one, Platty?
All right, so I'm going to read the first line here, where I wrote I'd have put Dragon Quest VII on here, but honestly, the characters other than Kiefer aren't nearly as good. And dear God, I fucking hated Maribel and the look of Hobo Link. Other than that, honestly, like Dragon Quest VII could be like my 1B game favorite in the series. I do love that game. I have many great memories. Like, my memories of Dragon Quest VII are the reverse of my Legend of Dragoon, because when I eventually did get divorced and moved out, like, that was my comfort game for like 4 months. Come home, put a couple hours in Dragon Quest VII every night, and just feel like I'm fine. This is going to be good. Life is all right. And, that was my second big playthrough, and I played it again on 3DS. I really do love Dragon Quest VII. But I think, in big recency bias here, and based on, like, I can't really point to anybody that I want to say F you to in the cast, Dragon Quest XI. Like,
okay.
Top to bottom, best cast in the series, I think. Again, 4, I love it. It's my favorite, like, classic game, and great cast there, but I there's a couple characters there I just want to never use when you come to chapter 5. Dragon Quest XI, if I needed to rotate somebody out because they were low on MP, well, that next person that I rotated in, they would just stay there until I had the same problem. I never really had the feeling like, I got to get this person out of my party. Like, once they came in, they were there until they got knocked out, or I needed somebody else's skill. Somebody else was needed at the time. Like, I just loved the cast, and what an epic story. As much as I love going town to town and solving problems in 7 and unlocking the islands, I love doing it here, and then kind of doing it again with when you had to go around and do it again. It was beautiful. It looked like a better version of 8, which again could be like another top tier game for me. It'd be like my 1C probably. And just little tweaks like the battle changing to picking someone and doing their action right away. Instead of just, picking everybody's action and going ahead. Just, I don't know, other than the hair on the hero, I really don't have a harsh thing to say about this game. And I think that's why I'd put it the 1A version of Dragon Quest in my head. But, if we recorded this next week, I could have very easily gone with 7. The day of the week, it's rough, but it's right there. So Dragon Quest 11 I'll put as my one of my top 5s.
All right. Well, you know what? I had a similar issue with one of my choices, and actually one of the ones that you guessed when it comes to one of my series, but we'll save that when we get to it. Next one that I'm going to talk about is actually a game that was on your Meh list. It's Earthbound, one of my favorite games. So, give a little bit of context. So, like a lot of kids and a lot of adults my age, first experience with Earthbound was through Super Smash Brothers. I was like 1 or 2 when Earthbound came out on the Super Nintendo, so I had no idea what a video game was. I couldn't walk or talk or nothing. I was a little baby, so I had no idea what video games were by any means. So a few years go by, Smash Brothers 64 comes out. I rented it on occasion from the video store, and I remember one of the times I rented it, there was the full roster was unlocked, and it's like, oh, there's Luigi. Oh, there's this guy called Captain Falcon. Oh, it's really cool. Who's that character? Ness. Who's Ness? I don't know who that is. He must be some sort of, for whatever reason, my stupid kid brain was like, oh, if it's a character I don't recognize, it must be a Mario character. I don't know why. For Nintendo stuff, that's where my brain went, but there we go. So I didn't know who Ness was, but I'm like, okay, I'll play as him, try him out. Then a few years go by, I get my GameCube, and I pick up a copy of Smash Brothers Melee. Well, it was my first big purchases from money that I had earned from doing stuff, so it's really exciting, and there was Ness again. Started learning then about Earthbound properly, and Smash Brothers Brawl comes along. This is where starting to use the internet more, so knew about Mother 3, which was the sequel to, I say sequel in very loose quotes, to Earthbound / Mother 2. Lucas is being added to Smash Brothers Brawl, and Ness is going to be an unlockable character again. Okay, great. We get 2 protagonists from the series, and it's at this point that I'm starting to be like, I've played as Ness all the time in Smash Brothers because he's one of my main characters. I've used him for years, but I've never played Earthbound. I need to look into Earthbound. And I remember watching some gameplay footage on YouTube. I watched the final boss, which was definitely a bit of a mind screw because you don't expect Yangus as your final boss from a game that looks like Earthbound. People have talked about that plenty though, so I'm not going to go into that one. But I did eventually get my hands on a copy in, I believe it was 2009, thanks to the help of a friend of mine who was able to find a copy that did come with the original strategy guide for the game. So that was pretty cool. Ooh. And I played that for that summer, like 2009, I think it was. This is like a decade ago, so I could have my memory might be a little fuzzy on the exact year, but that was a game that I was really glad that I was finally able to play it and experience it, because it was one of those games that just, you kind of sometimes, I don't know if you have had this, Platty, but sometimes there's a show or a movie or something you see and you're like, I think I'm going to like that. I think I'm really going to like that a lot. Mm-hmm. And it just clicks with you. That's one of those cases where this game really clicked. Combat, is pretty simple. It's very, I'm not going to go into story stuff and do all that, because we've talked about this in other episodes. But what I really liked about Earthbound was that the combat was pretty easy to pick up and understand, which makes sense because it was inspired by Dragon Quest combat. In a recent playthrough, I learned how just recently, just like last year or so, when I replayed the game when it came to the Nintendo Switch, I learned that there's actually a lot of use for like status ailments. There's some secrets I didn't know about. It's a game that I always kind of learn something new whenever I go back to it. It's a very simple gameplay wise game, but I think that's one of its strengths, is that it's sort of like a comfort game for me. Kind of like how with Dragon Quest being a series that brought you and I together and so many other people who we have on the podcast. It's kind of a comfort food kind of game, and that's what Earthbound feels to me. It's very silly. It has some very fourth wall breaking kind of moments. The dialogue can be kind of goofy, but then you have some of your moments where it kind of does the turn, where things get a little darker and a little more serious, and there's this serious, there's the threat of Gygus and taking over the world and everything, but you can stand strong and you can defeat him. You have to gain strength and travel, and that's what I like about Earthbound. It's just a nice little adventure. A lot of charm to it. I love the Charlie Brown-esque look that the characters have to them. That's one of the first things I thought of when I saw the graphics, and seeing Ness as I got older. It's like he kind of looks like he'd fit in with the Peanuts gang. Like he's like the long lost kid that lives down the street or something from Charlie Brown. But it doesn't help too that Ness has a black and yellow color scheme for one of his costumes that looks like Charlie Brown. But this is just a game that, for people who are like, oh, this game's so overhyped, it's so simple and blah blah blah, that's fine, that's fair. If it's not for you, don't like it, that's okay. If you're just kind of meh, whatever. This is just a game that, for me, I think I played it at the right time, and it's one that I've always had sort of an interest in, especially from learning about it from Smash Brothers and finally getting to play it. It's been an experience I've always loved returning to and replaying it over the years. For a while, every summer, I actually would replay that copy that I had gotten in 2009. Eventually, I stopped doing that, but then it became available on the Switch. It became available on the Wii U. I have it on the SNES Mini, because that was one of the games they announced for it was going to be on it, and that was really cool that Nintendo put that on there too. But it's one that I've always enjoyed just revisiting and replaying it, and it's always a fun and just a nice experience. Nothing that's too complicated. There's fun stuff you can do to make it a little more challenging for yourself, but it's a nice quality game in my opinion, and it's a Super Nintendo classic. Anyway, I've been rambling a bit for that one, so I'll stop my rambling.
All right, so you guessed the right series, but putting a lot of thought into it, you didn't get quite the right game. Definitely Trails in the Sky 3 with Kevin as a protagonist. Mm-hmm. Amazing. But I did go a little different, because that game, like half the games in the series, just blows up the cast. By the end, you've got 6 parties of 4 or something like that. You can have 4 parties of 6. I don't know. Or maybe there's 16 people in it. I don't know. There's a shitload of people in that game, because it's basically all the playable characters from Trails in the Sky. Both games. I'm gonna narrow it down a little bit more in the Trails series, because I really love all of them, to the Crossbell duology. And if you had to get me down for one even more, I'm gonna pick the first one, the Trails from Zero.
Okay.
Very specifically there, because kind of what I said with Dragon Quest XI, Trails from Zero's got 4 characters. You're playing 4 characters. Late in the game, you get to add 1 or 2 others, legacy characters from previous games. But really, it is the story of those 4 people. There were 4 people. They're forming a police force, special services division in the town of Crossbell, and the whole game takes place in Crossbell. How many video games take place in a single city? Now, they cheat because they kind of go to outlying little towns, but I think there's seriously 2. There's a mining town. There's a more rural town. There's a hospital the other direction. And then south is more just, it leads to the gate to the police academy that Lloyd goes to. Like, you don't go far. You go to those places a lot. You get to know those towns really well. It's not, stop by a city, do a couple tasks, move on to the next city. You are always going back to your police headquarters. You are always going down the same residential pathway. You're always shopping at the same couple stores, like the whole game. Like, they're always getting better equipment and whatever as the story goes on. But you're getting to know the NPCs so well. Like, hey, it's this guy who sold me stuff for 50 hours. And, you then play the next game, Trails from Azure, and you get them even more. Again, that game adds a couple more characters, playable characters right from the beginning. So you're getting the bigger rosters again. Still excellent games, but like just the pure smallness of that first game is just totally awesome. Again, I don't really have anything bad to say about any game in the series, but if I want to boil it down to, what really makes me like these games, it's, getting to their characters. Falcom does a great world building, and I don't think you get to experience the world building in any tighter a fashion in any of those games than in Zero. And, the battle system here starts going from the sky to what it becomes in Cold Steel. You got the arts, the crafts. I think this is where the S breaks come about. I don't think there were S breaks in Sky, if I'm not mistaken. But there's a couple things. I remember texting you like, oh man, I see like the roots of how it got from Sky to Cold Steel in these games when I played them. Because I played the two with the fan translations on Vita a couple of years back, and now everybody can play them. Azure, I think, comes out in March. We're in March, so
yeah, that's going to be coming out on the 17th.
Yep. So that's there. People have been playing Zero though last year. And good for it being on the Switch now. It's just the 4 characters are great. They're all good characters. They're all great people. And kind of like I said with Dragon Quest XI, Dragon Quest VII had some duds to me. And I mean, how can there not be duds in games with 20 people like all the other Trails games? So the fact that you've got those 4 that really evolve like really great throughout the game and evolve together and really work together, and all the NPCs around, just tight storytelling. Really love Trails from Zero.
Awesome. This is one that I've been wanting to get around and play too, and I almost did start playing it recently, but I'm like, no, you're going to get your like sooner or later Octopath 2 is going to show up, so don't be starting another RPG.
Oh, yeah, you don't need another 50, 60 hours before that arrives on your doorstep.
Because I'm kind of waiting to get the next game too, because then it's like if I want to start playing the next one, I'll have
it'll be right
both
there.
of them. Yep. And that's why I haven't gone back to Cold Steel either, because it's like, what? Stuff in Cold Steel is going to make more sense if I play these other ones first. So we're just going to maybe do what you did and just kind of go boom, like maybe not back to back to back, but try and play them.
I think I've done like 4 years now where I've played about 1.5 to 2 games every year and limited myself to that. Like, okay, don't pick up the next one. And the times that I have, I've made it like halfway through and like, okay, I need a break.
I need to get off the ride.
I mean, they're good games, but 1.5 of those is 100 hours. And after 100 hours, it's time to switch to another series for a little bit.
I need a break.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's see. I think since we just keep bringing up the game, I'm going to go ahead and talk about this one on my favorites list. Good old Dragon Quest VII.
There we go.
So maybe not a surprise to anybody who's been listening to Slime Time for a long while now, but one of my favorite games from the Dragon Quest series is Dragon Quest VII. It was one of the last mainline games that I needed to play. This is back before Dragon Quest XI had even been announced. This was in one of those like dark ages of Dragon Quest for Western fans, where we weren't getting like any news, and we're hearing about how the Japanese were getting all these 3DS titles and they were having all these updates for Dragon Quest X. So this was kind of a good time to play catch ups. But Dragon Quest VII. I first played it on the PS1 version. Then a few years later, we finally did get the 3DS version. Played that. I love and enjoy both versions both of them had their strengths and weaknesses. I know we actually just had a discussion on Brurian's Discord where it was like, oh no, this one's better because it has this. Oh no, this one's better. This version's better because it has da 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 da. And I'm just kind of one of those people that's just kind of sitting in the background like, well, I like both because I think they both have their strengths and weaknesses. I can, like, I'm not saying everybody else doesn't have it, but I'm one of those people that tries to look at both sides of the coin, so to speak. Mm-hmm. Trying to see like, oh well, this one did this pretty well, but this remake did this and this pretty well. But for the game itself, I mean, I talked about it years ago on my first appearance on Slime Time when I was a guest for one of the Prime episodes. But just quick little summary for why I like Dragon Quest VII so much. I liked that the game starts off, really differently from some of the other Dragon Quest games where you had those puzzles you had to solve in order to eventually, you kind of start getting into more of the mystery of like, why is there only one island in the world? And as you play through the game, you go to the past, explore these islands, help the people out, and your actions then cause the world to change, and you get all this new territory you can go and explore in the present. You get some interesting NPCs and little stories that come along the way. And even though, I guess I can't talk about it yet, but I personally really like the cast of 7, Maribel being an annoyance aside. I just like how the characters have they have simple but memorable designs. And they stood out to me because to me, they kind of have a different look than some of Toriyama's designs. They're not quite as out there as Dragon Quest VI characters look. They kind of feel like they kind of reeled it back a little bit more. And I like the main playable cast. Maribel kind of is like, whatever. But I've kind of softened up to her. She's over the years. She's still annoying, but she's just kind of whatever. I like the rest of the characters a lot. Like Ira, she's a really cool. She's this cool warrior from the Romer tribe who's also the skilled dancer. You have Sir Mervyn, who's this, thousands of years old warrior who, fought along the forces of the Almighty to take on the Demon Lord. And even though he's, a fish out of water type scenario where he's in this completely different time period, as soon as you talk to him and you find out what's going on, he's like, all right, I will help you however I can. Lead the way, young master, blah, 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 whatever you name the hero. And you have, good old Gobbo / Ruff, who only cares about food and just wants to make everybody happy. Very simple characters. And I mean, there's definitely Dragon Quest games with stronger casts, but this is one that for me, like, I just like the playable group of characters. They're very, I don't know what word I would describe for them, but it's just a nice little cast. I guess I don't really have a really good way to describe it, unfortunately. I don't have any notes for this part, but I just really enjoyed how the gameplay loop was for Dragon Quest VII. I liked the job class system a lot. I thought the world of the game was really interesting too, and how the further you get along and the more you start to learn, like, well, this is why, the parts of the world were sealed away, and like, why was Estard Island like the only island that existed? And, you get all those kind of details, and I think you get a cool little twist towards the end of the game too, where, I guess it's okay to kind of spoil this one, but you beat the big bad, you get this strange cryptic message, and then things start taking a nosedive or what seems like it's going to be the absolute worst before the heroes all, reunite again. And, they go off to storm the Demon Lord's keep to, stop his plans that he was trying to put into action. And, for as long as this game is, it didn't ever feel like a slog to get through either version. I did take a little bit of a break at one point with, like, the PS1 version. So I was like, I kind of want to play something else for a while. But it was kind of like with Octopath Traveler 1 when I played that, where it wasn't necessarily out of boredom. It was just more like, hey, this is a good stopping place. I'm going to play something else for a while, and then I'll come back to this later. And, Dragon Quest VII is a game that ever since playing it, even as a kid, like kind of being aware of it with Dragon Warrior 7, with it being featured in the back of my Dragon Warrior Monsters 2 guidebook. There's always a game that kind of stuck in the back of my mind. And years later, finally playing it, it was like, you know what? I'm glad that stuck out of my mind, because this is something that, once I finally was able to play it, I really enjoyed it a lot. So that's why it's on my favorite. I think some other Dragon Quest games do things a little bit better, but when someone asks me, like, what's one of your favorite Dragon Quest games, like 7 is usually one of the first ones I think of, just because of my experiences with it, and just I enjoy what it does for, with how it handles its gameplay and the job system and all that good stuff. So yeah, that is my third one on my list. So
that was number 3.
So now we're on our
I got to do my number 3.
Oh yeah, you got to do your number 3.
You went
doing
first.
Doing this backwards.
I know.
Throw me off.
You know what? I'm typing them into our like show notes, and I'm like, wait a minute, what happened here? Why do I have Yangus on twice? Like, oh yeah, that's what I'm gonna go first. All right,
Okay,
so
sorry. What's your number?
Now that we're on number 3, I'm going to talk about it number 2 because I have really enjoyed a game that I spent the past month with, and I just beat it 2 nights ago in the middle of writing my review. And like I said, this is actually going to be like we can rate games whatever we want on RP Gamer. Our editor doesn't say like, no, that game's not a 5 out of 5. You can't do that because, I mean, we don't all play all the games. They just say, hey, if you're going to rate this game 5 out of 5, then you better write it like it's a fucking 5 out of 5. Don't say the battle system was fun and the people were fun and 5 out of 5. Like, talk it up. And they'll even say, they're like, listen, right now this reads more like a 4 out of 5. If you really want to rate that 5 out of 5, take this 2 sentences, make it a paragraph, da-da-da-da-da. So, I mean, we're not edited in that way at all. And I'm really trying to get it all in there before my first proofread. But Octopath Traveler 2 has been a 5 out of 5 for me. I know people behind the scenes, I've kind of, especially over the past week when I can talk about it more, I made more little, they still do this, they still do that. But honestly, they took everything that worked in the first game, and I think you and I both agree, like the first game was pretty damn good. Mm-hmm. And, they addressed, what'd you say?
Oh, sorry. I was just going to real quick say, like, with your comment about, how we both feel about it, like, Octopath Traveler 1 was a game that, even though it did take me a long time to beat it, it was one that, and even now I would say that it's probably been one of my favorite RPG experiences from the last, from this current, like, console generation, or however you want to put it. It's just was one that it did like pretty much everything right for me that I enjoy from a game. A little rough around the edges at some points, but you know what? I was enjoying myself so much I didn't even care. But anyway, sorry. Go on, Platty.
No, and I kind of see it as the culmination of everything they've learned from the 3 Bravely games and Octopath. Like, to me, those are kind of linked in my head. So like this is almost like game 5 here. And I mean, I know that obviously they and the Bravely's aren't the same, but you still got that same kind of feel in the battle system where you can save up extra turns or extra attacks. And I think this game's kind of like also was one of the reasons I didn't put Dragon Quest VII on there, because the job systems in these games are so great. You have your jobs, you have your sub jobs. There's special jobs to go out and find hidden in the world. There's so much stuff to do with the jobs. There's little shrines out there that'll, you did this well. You can now have a better special skill learned from there. And then once you spend your job points, your JP on stuff, you open up passive skills, not just active skills that you can battle. You can use passive skills, and even though you can switch between jobs and your battle skills change, you could still use passive skills. Like once I was a thief, and I learned enough thief skills, I got a passive skill that let me earn more experience by doing battles at night. And in Octopath Traveler 2, with just the touch of like the ZR button, you can switch between day and night. And let me tell you, I always went everywhere at night just because I'm like, even though I didn't have like the thief skill, that like I wasn't necessarily always a thief, I would have somebody who had mastered that in my party to make sure, like, why not get that 25% HP bonus walking from here to there. So I would always have that. And I mean, first of all, it looks great. The first game introduced the world to the 2D HD style, and this one's got it again. Love the 2D HD style. Because my favorite graphics are kind of the really nice high-res sprites, or into like even 3D. I'm like, I like Dragon Quest XI because it looks like a cartoon. Everything else, I don't like hyper-realistic. Just give me my chibis, give me my sprites, give me my 3DS level quality.
Yeah, 3D. You want that stylized look.
Yep, I'm fine. I don't need to be walking around seeing every piece of the 5 o'clock shadow on my grizzly broken down main guys, whatever. But Octopath Traveler 2, I actually really got into the story and the music more than I have in a game. Like you said, like favorite console generation, like the story and the music of this game. And Yangus, you're going to be probably more blown away than anybody. Like I could pick up on musical tones in the different chapters.
Oh my gosh.
I was like, like I think there's a guitar in the stuff in Particio's stuff, or like definitely like Hikari's got some Asian influence on the music in here. And is that more of a flute in this one? And like can't remember what the girl's name was, but you start off in a nice little forest town, and I'm like, my God, this feels like I'm hearing Hobbit music from Lord of the Rings. Like I'm getting that whole feeling from this little tranquil village in the middle of nowhere. Like,
oh my gosh, yeah, you really did get into it because normally
I
you're
did.
not big on the music of
I'm
games.
playing on mute or something, and like, holy cow! Like, I was getting what they were laying down, man. And the stories. One of the first things I did when I went into every town. I know they did this in the first game, but maybe I didn't do it as much. But like every NPC has a story that goes with them, just a block of text, and most of it's just throwaway. But like there were some damn good ones in the game. I mean, there were some that were effing hilarious. There was like a dirty joke one that came out of nowhere, and then like the character continued the dirty joke. I was like, oh my god, that's hilarious! Like I actually had to go back and hit the the video button so I could go watch it again because I'm like, did they really say that? Holy shit, they said that? And it was so veiled that it didn't come off at first. And I'm like, oh man, they just made a sexual joke out of that. That's hilarious. And then there was one where like there was a little boy. It's just a random guy in a town that had nothing to do with anything, like absolutely nothing to do. It was just like this little boy he had a stuffed toy, and for some reason you couldn't steal it. And I'm like, I can steal everything. I'm like level 60. I can go to everybody and just steal the shit. Or hell, even if that person's got an 8% chance of stealing, I can just save and reload, probably steal it in 3 or 4 tries. And I was like, why can't I steal this thing? And then I because there's path actions, you can go up and coerce information out of them, knock them the hell out, recruit them to join you, steal from them. But then with the 8 characters, they can do something in the day, something in the night. So you have like 16 different path actions. A lot of them are repeatable because obviously you don't have all 8 people in your party at any time. So there's like 3 different ways to get the information out of the people. And I did that to the boy, and it was like, yeah, this kid's pretty scared, so he's got this stuffed animal, and it's really like this demon thing, and he's got an agreement with it. Like when he gets scared at night, the demon's allowed to eat part of his soul, so he doesn't even remember being like scared or. And I'm like, holy fucking.
Holy shit! I was not expecting you to go in there.
Yeah, and it's like, and it works. The demon gets some of the kid's soul, and the kid's not as afraid anymore, and it's just the way it works for them.
Oh my god, I did not expect the story to go that way at all.
And like I said, like I have found no way, no shape, no how this kid part of any side quest or anything at all. It's just a random person that I walked into in the corner of a random town on the edge of the map. Like,
my god.
And I'm like, holy crap, they spent so much time on, and that's the littlest details. And then you've got 8 stories with the characters. A couple of them are just like, this could have been your JRPG trope of tropes. And then some of them are like, holy fucking shit, man. The body count adds up fast, and like shit gets real. And like, as I was complaining, it's the Bravely games. Like, I don't get to kill people. Like some chapters are just happy-go-lucky, and you're battling them because, hey, you know what? I want to be the best this person. I want to be the best comedian. Let's have a joke battle, blah, blah, blah. And you battle them at the end like, yay, we put on a good performance. And then some people like, you are, man, the smell of their blood, that was intense. Cool, they're dead now. And just like, holy shit, like, slavery and all this stuff gets discussed. And when we had the dancer, there was obviously the exotic dancer prostitute in the first one. You're walking in bordellos in certain parts of town, and Octopath too. So I mean, it goes a lot of places. And then of course the battle system's just amazing. They made like one little tiny tweak to it. They added a like an ultimate attack kind of thing.
Okay.
So like it would be almost like an S break for the other one. And other than that, it's 99% the same as the first one. And why not? And then they added these cross-pass chapters that have been in the advertising, where you start getting partnered up, the guys partner up and actually talk to each other as you're going around the town and trying to solve a little problem. They're pretty small, but hey, it addresses what people said about the not a lot of character interaction in the first one. And I still think they could go farther, because like in the individual chapters, you still get something like, oh, what are you going to, like, you get to the final boss and they're like, you're really going to try taking me on? What are you alone going to do against me? And like, all you got to do is have that character be like, I have my friends, let's go. Instead of just like, I'll do it. And like, come on, throw a couple words in there to acknowledge the other people are with you. But I mean, whatever. I didn't care about that in the first game. I know so many people are like, I couldn't stand that the characters didn't interact. Who cares, man? You're getting 8 complete stories that have, beginnings, middles, and ends, like real resolutions. And then, as I was telling you beforehand, there's the final chapter is definitely more signposted in this one than in the last one, and I was able to get through it pretty well. And yeah, I think I grinded in this one a little bit more. And a big part of that is I was playing it before release, so I couldn't like Google, hey, where's a good place to grind or whatever. I was just like, and I was just wandering around a hell of a lot more, which is, I know what you do, which is helps you a lot in these kind of games. You usually wander more than me, go see what's in every nook and cranny, and walk around. I think, like I said, two little things, and I'm still like, this is a 5 out of 5. This is an awesome game, and like I said, I feel it's a culmination of like what all these Bravely and Octopaths could be. Going forward, you don't need to change it up this much. This is like as JRPG ass as JRPG, and that's a good thing. Like this game shows why I really love JRPG games. Parts of it are tropey, parts of it are out of fucking left field, and like holy shit, parts of it you kind of get hints of along the way. So the fact that they have 8 stories and it doesn't all have to be one or the other, you're getting parts of all of this all in one game, and it's really awesome.
Well, that's pretty cool to hear that, because I've been kind of curious, like, because thankfully you've not been telling us like all these kind of details and stuff, and kind of keeping us in kind of a low down, not spoiling too much stuff. But
I only give the non-spoilery screenshots.
Yep. Yeah, we were giving. I was giving Platty a hard time about that when he shared one last night. I'm like, dude, spoiler one, come on, man. It's completely nothing.
I think it was the dirty joke one.
Yep, it's just nothing. But no, it's awesome to hear that you have such a high opinion of it, and like you said, both of us really enjoyed Octopath 1, so this is definitely one that I'm super excited to play whenever my copy shows up. So I'm playing.
Hey, you know what?
Time, so
you get it completed. Maybe you and I have a little another side quest with going in depth about it.
I know. I wanted to do that with the first game too, but we'll see. Maybe it'll be a double feature.
Yeah, could be.
Maybe we'll talk a little bit about both. But all right. But so now we're actually on number.
Now
2.
we're at your game 4.
Yes. Now we're on.
We're down
2,
to the top
number
2,
4, whatever we want to call it. For my next one, this is a game that usually pops into my head when somebody brings up RPGs, like what's one of your favorite ones, and in particular, it's what I would consider my favorite game, my favorite RPG from Atlus, but also one of my favorite games from them is Shin Megami Tensei Strange Journey. So this is one that, again, it was one of those games that it just got stuck in my brain for whatever reason. So back when Nintendo Power was still around, they had a preview article for Strange Journey. It showcased some of the characters, showed how there was this strange like environment where there's like looks like there's a shopping mall, there's this red light district, there's this like war-torn area. It's like, well, what the heck kind of RPG is this? Like, I mean, it's called Strange Journeys, but why is it going to such like crazy locations? And I remember the character design sticking out the most for characters like Bugaboo, Mastema, the Black-Winged Angel, Horcus, who's this giant pig dragon monster, who's like this is before I had played any other Shin Megami Tensei game, so I was just kind of like in the total dark on how things were with this series. But it always stuck in my head. So about 2 years later, after seeing that article, I had gone to see what was it? I think the first Avengers movie in theaters with a buddy of mine, and we stopped off at a GameStop after we got done seeing the movie. And when we're looking through the games, I see a case, a DS game case. I pull it out and I'm like, holy shit, I know this. This is from that game for Nintendo Power. Because I recognize the Demonica suit, which is this total like 70s, 80s ass looking spacesuit that character designer Kaneko made from who's one of the main designers for the SMT series from Atlus. It's this total retro looking suit, but it looks kind of cool too, in this odd, strange way, which is fitting, Strange Journey. But I finally picked up that copy because I finally found this game that I'd been always remembering in the back of my head, like, what was that DS game? What was that DS game about? It had all the strange pictures in it. And when I finally played the game, I absolutely loved it. Like, Strange Journey is one of those games for me. It's got a few little hiccups in its design, but for me, it's a 10 out of 10 experience. Like, I absolutely loved this game from start to finish. Why I like this game, just kind of quickly talk about it. I enjoyed the environments and how each area of the Schwarzwald is supposed to represent, something different from humanity. Where the first section, Antlia, looks like a cave in Antarctica. That's where the game starts you off in. This great big cosmic abnormality called the Schwarzwald is starting to appear, which in the story it actually is based on a real scientific philosophy too, from a German scientist, where the Schwarzwald was this possibility that if things start going too bad on Earth, that it will start engulfing and try and rebirth the planet. And that's essentially what's happening. So you're this team of top scientists, engineers, soldiers. Funny enough, Platty, you might appreciate it too. Maybe noticed it when you played it, that all of them have sort of a Star Trek sort of classification thing going on, where soldiers are red, medical is blue, comms and stuff, they are in yellow. So little bit of a Star Trek influence there for color schemes for some of these characters, depending on what their role is. But I really enjoyed how, it's these characters who are thrown into this situation that, there's parts of it that seem familiar, because with Sector Antlia, you have this cave that starts off in Antarctica. Getting back to that point, this cave that starts off in Antarctica. It's a frozen wasteland kind of cave. But when you get far enough down into it, suddenly the scenery changes to this war-torn rural village, European kind of style setting, where you see bomber planes up in the sky dropping multiple bombs as they're flying over. When you look at the ground, you'll see that there are charred remains of humans. You get to the end of that section and you start learning where the demons are, planning to attack the planet, which is where you then start to running across how the demons are based off of different creatures from folklore, mythology, religions, all sorts of stuff from the real world. And as you travel through the Schwarzwald, you start to see that all of these locations that you go to are all based on different aspects of humanity, and how the demons view what humanity is doing is bad. You have Antlia with its war-torn section being how humans go to war. You have Sector Carina, which looks like this just disgusting over-the-top shopping center, where there's all of these crazy supplies and items and things all lining the shelves. You got stuff the mundane cereal, snacks, milk. And then you get to some parts where the NPCs tell you, oh yeah, if you look down this aisle, they have tanks and missiles, and there's an alligator in a cage down there. What exactly is this place? you have this weird stuff going on, but it all ties into how the Earth itself and the creator of the Schwarzwald, which you meet very late in the game, views how humanity's changing the planet for the worse, and that if humanity doesn't do something, the Schwarzwald's just going to completely engulf it. Everything's going to be reborn, and as you start learning more about this, that's when some of the other factions start coming into play. You meet the Blackwing Angel Mostama. You start meeting this mysterious barefoot woman with blonde hair, oh so subtly named Louisa Fair. I wonder who that could possibly be. But you start running into some of these other characters, and even you run into another group of humans that have entered the Schwarzwald, who are trying to just conduct business and trying to use the materials and technology that they have picked up from within this, strange, anomalous location to take back to the real world, even though there's this giant black hole that's essentially engulfing the planet. All these demons are starting to appear in countries around the world. Militaries are trying to fight them off. They're just concerned about making a profit, and you come into contact with them. You eventually cross paths with some other characters, and even some of the characters that you've been with you for the entire game, they start to change as things go on. But they're characters that are with you for the entire game. So when seeing these changes occur within them, they kind of subtly happen over the overarching story before there's just this final moment where finally, cements them okay, this character on the strike team, he's now in the, he's your chaos rep. He has sort of those little bit of that indication early on, but he's, such a close companion that when it finally does happen, you're just oh, no, I just, good companion just left. He's going on a different path than I am. There's a lot of stuff about Strange Journey. I don't want to go too ramble and go talking too long, because I'd like to just talk about this at some point.
Too late.
I know. This whole fucking episode's just yeah. But I really do enjoy the narrative, and in both the actual storytelling, what the game talks to you about. I like the gameplay loop a lot, where you get these nice little story sections before each area you go to, You then go into the new dungeon slash sector of the Schwarzwald. And you get a nice amount of time to explore, get into combat. You have some little scenes spaced in between. To me, this is a game that has a very good balance between like trying to get its gameplay, its story, and its characterization all in a nice loop for the player. Then you get to the end, you have the classic Shin Megami Tensei stuff coming in then, where you have your option to, if you want to be like the law-aligned character, if you want to be neutral, try and save humanity, or if you're going to go chaos and just like, let the whole Schwarzwald, engulf the entire planet and let things reset. And there's some really cool designs for the environments themselves. Like, even though I can't stand this place at all because of its dungeon layouts, Sector Aridinus, which is like the 5th major area of the game, it's this like science versus, what is that, nurture versus nature, like science or technology versus nature, whatever argument you want to use for that. Because part of it looks like this beautiful like hedge maze garden, but then when you get to the center of the place, there's this like inorganic material-based tower where there's all of these TV monitors like flashing stuff. And then when you get to certain parts of the dungeon, you then start to see there's this strange hybrid of the two, of technology and nature, forming the walls. And as you're trying to go through, make your way to the top to, get to this access point or the vanishing point of the Schwarzwald to potentially, destroy it for good. Just there's little environmental things like that too, along with the actual storytelling that really, for me, just cements, the strong narrative that Shin Megami Tensei games can go for without necessarily having to be like upfront about it. This game does have quite a bit of dialogue and text to it, but to me it was never a point where it was like boring, where it was like, oh, there's a bunch of cutscenes, or like the beginning has a lot of text to it. It never felt boring because it does a good job setting up what goes on with the story and getting you into getting you invested in these characters and the situation that they're thrown into. I don't really have too much else to say other than this game does have one of my favorite soundtracks from an RPG, just because I like how I talked about it recently on the Discord and Brurian's Discord with one of the other members there when I mentioned that I really like how atmospheric a lot of the music is for setting up like the situations that you're getting into. Like, one of my favorite songs is the song Prayer, which is the main theme of the Red Sprite, where it has this kind of marching beat to it, and the background goes like dun, it's sort of a gentle melody, but at the same time with the snare drums like playing in the background, like doing that sort of thing every once in a while. You feel like you can't fully relax, even though this is your time of peace. You have to remember that you have to go back out there, get ready for combat. And just it's things like that that really make this game stand out to me, both back when I first played it and even now talking about it again. Because this is a game that I can just vividly remember so many parts of it. And I've been going on for a little bit about this one, but bottom line, Strange Journey, whether it's the original or the 3DS version, which added a few new things, which I like most of that. I might like most of those new additions for the most part. This is a game that really, to me, is just a really standout RPG, and one that when most people who you talk to have played it, are like, oh yeah, that Strange Journey was such a an interesting experience, such a fun experience, or it's one of my favorite SMT games. And for me, this is definitely like, when I think of like an Atlas RPG, like this is one that to me just it hit all the nails on the head. It's a personal 10 out of 10 for me. But now that I've talked, Platty's probably asleep now. By now, have to listen to me talk.
I'm back. I'm back. Oh, man.
Right. I know.
Did my grocery shopping for the week, and
if there's one thing that both Platty and I are good about, it's that we can just keep talking about things that we love and keep going on and telling all sorts of details about it. But
yeah, I think I will back off on this next one because I know I've talked about it and others in the series before. But Rune Factory, I could not be happier that Rune Factory has returned to being a thing. And I think my favorite, and maybe it's again a little bit of recency bias, this could change in a few months because of Rune Factory 3 coming out, a re-release. And I never really was into game media back when I played a lot of these on the DS and 3DS because the series went away for a long time. But everybody is like, oh, super excited about Rune Factory 3. And I'm excited because since I've reviewed 4 and I reviewed 5, I'm kind of hoping, crossing my fingers for the review code for 3 whenever that comes available. Mm-hmm. But Rune Factory 4, I would say, is definitely one of my top 5 like favorite things to go back to. The fact that I've played it through twice. I put a good 125, and like when I say 125 hours, that's my second most game played on my 3DS ever. I don't put hundreds of hours into games like a lot of people, or replay much. So I've got like Dragon Quest 9. You're one. I've got like 140 hours on, and then coming in second, I've got Rune Factory 4 on there on the 3DS, and I played it again when it came out, the special edition on the Switch. It's just, something that when I was in college and most of high school and college, I did not play a lot of JRPGs or console games. I skipped the whole PS1 era. Didn't really play anything on Game Boy or Game Boy Color until after I graduated college. I played a lot of real-time strategy or just games on the computer. I played a lot of Heroes of Might and Magic. But what got me back into doing, even like coming back to Super Nintendo, I barely played my Super Nintendo when I was young. But getting me back into it was Harvest Moon, playing it on an emulator. And I followed Harvest Moon for a little bit. And then when I saw that, and I was like, oh, okay, after a couple games, whatever, I'm growing stuff, I'm getting married, it's the same game. But then when Rune Factory came out and I could do a little battling and have that like real RPG experience, plus plant a bunch of crops, I was like, yeah. And it culminated with Rune Factory 4. Just that game had 3 different complete story arcs. Like, you went through a whole game, had a story arc, 30, 40 hours in, you won, there was ending credits, it was like, cool. Then I was like, well, there's this other thing going on. Like, oh, okay, so boom, another 30, 40 hour story arc, and like, great, cool. And on the 3DS, random town events would happen, and you'd be locked into basically like a side quest kind of story going until you completed it, and they happened randomly. Well, there was a whole third story arc in Rune Factory 4 that you just had to kind of randomly get that side quest going, and it would turn into a third story arc. I got pretty lucky. That happened, so I was able to go through the whole story arc. I've got friends that it never happened, and never heard this problem on the Switch copy. They must have tweaked it to be like the next story thing once you beat the game. And I didn't beat it, at least on the 3DS or on the Switch. I was like, all right, I've already put like 70, 80 hours in here. I've seen credits twice. We're into post-game stuff where you got to really do some power leveling and stuff. I've already done that once. I don't need to do that again. But just, all the characters in Rune Factory games, there's so many to talk to. There's so much crafting in the games. It's just amazing how much crafting there is. I think I've amazed people before by there's always like 7 or 8 different weapon classes that you can get. There's short swords, there's long swords, there's dual blades, there's fight with gloves, there's magic staffs, there's always axes, pole arms like spears, and maybe 1 or 2 other things. There's always a club type weapon, and each of those usually has 70 or 80 different types throughout the game. So you're looking at 500 different weapons in these games, and just the amount of recipes that you can cook. And then there's all the armor and helmets and shields and blood. I mean, there's 1,000 things that you could be crafting in the game and whatever, and that and growing the crops and raising crop levels, because I don't know if 3 had it, about to refind out this year, but 4 definitely had it. You could start raising the levels of your crops. You have a level 1 tomato, a level 2 tomato, a level 3 tomato. And as long as you were raising it in good soil and had good fertilizer, you could raise it. When the thing grows, you throw it in the seed thing, and now you've got level 5 seeds. Go plant the level 5 seeds, harvest the level 5 thing, stick it in the seed creator, and you get level 6 seeds. So, I mean, there's always so much to do, always so many numbers and stats, and just really wrapped around a kind of low stakes kind of battle system that even, ARPG newbie like me could always do very well at. And some of the games I could just craft gear that would be incredible, that would allow me to be in the fights way more than my skill level would allow me to ever be. Just, I've loved all the Rune Factory games for different ways, and then I think 4 has been the most complete. 5 had technical issues. I still really enjoyed it. It's the only game, though, I never got married in, because I kind of got lost at one point in what the story was trying to do with side quests, and just got so invested in the main game. And after a while, I was like, oh, I've never really raised a lot of friendship levels with any of the other characters. And I was like, I've kind of kept everybody in the town. I think I got to the quest where it was like, get everybody in the town to like friendship level 5. And I did that. And then I was like, you know what? I haven't really seen many side quests going on, and thought it was like a glitch, and then realized that everything's on the map, but I never went to the south of town to the beach because there's really no need to. During the day, I'm always heading elsewhere to go. And sure enough, like the person whose side quest I was on was hanging out on the beach every day. And I'm like, oh, son of a bitch. Had I just gone that way, like I could zoom out and see the whole town. I'm like, huh, there's no quest marker. I guess they're not around today. And, you know, it wasn't bad, but I know a lot of people find the story of the guy who can turn into the little Wooly in Rune Factory 3 to be their favorite. So I played them out of order. That was the second Rune Factory game I played. So we're at like 13 years now, 10 years plus. Like I barely remember Rune Factory 3. So I'm excited to revisit that because Rune Factory 4 I've put a good 200 hours into and just really loved it.
See, I just imagine now your character, everybody in town was just like, oh yeah, that's the weird loner that lives on the outskirts of town. Nobody knows what he's doing out there.
But we're all decent friends with him.
He just keeps to himself, man. Just smile and nod when he comes into town. Act like he's your friend.
Everybody acted like they were friendly.
Well, they didn't want to make you mad. They didn't know what you were gonna do.
See.
But no. Yeah, you definitely have talked about Rune Factory a lot over the years too, and I've always kind of gotten the impression that 4 was your favorite. So there we go. We have the recorded proof once again, ladies and gentlemen. All right. Well, we've come to the very last entries for both of our lists. Platty, you guessed it. And this was actually one of the games where I was not sure if I wanted to go with this one or the 9th entry, because it's one of those things where it depends on my mood, truth be told. But I decided for this list and to go with the game that was one of the games that really got me more into RPGs, and probably even though I had played some before it, without this game we might not even be doing this episode right now, and that is Final Fantasy IV. So way back on our very first episode of Sidequest, we talked about Final Fantasies 1 through 6. That was like, what was that, like 2-3 years ago when we did that episode? But when did we do that? It was like, was that during COVID?
What? Yes, we did. We started it in 2020, so like August.
Yeah, it's almost
August,
3 years
September,
then.
something like that. Yeah.
Well, 3 years this year, I guess. But yeah. So way back we talked about it. I've mentioned this probably multiple other times too. That Final Fantasy IV is one of my favorite games of all time. It's one of my favorite RPGs, and this was an RPG that really got me into RPGs because before playing Final Fantasy IV, I had played a few. Like I had played the Paper Mario games, like. The first one on the Nintendo 64, Thousand Year Door. I had played a little bit of Pokemon. I had played Dragon Warrior Monsters 1 and 2. But I wouldn't say any of those games necessarily made me a fan of RPGs or what RPGs can be about. When it came time to, again, bringing up Nintendo Power for this one, when it came time to renew my issues of Nintendo Power and my subscription, I was looking through one of the subscriber bonuses where it's like, hey, if you resubscribe, you get a free player's guide from Nintendo Power themselves. And I'm looking through them, and none of them really caught my eye, and I already had some of them, so I then see one of them was Final Fantasy IV. And I remembered seeing a little blurb about the game in a Nintendo Power issue where they kind of went over some of the bosses from it and like, oh, hey, if you're going to get to this boss, here's some advice for you to try and take it down quickly. And I'd like, I'll go ahead and I'll get the full guide for it. It's the only thing on here that I'm really interested in. So, we'll see what it's like. And I was really taken in by the artwork, Yoshitaka Amano's artwork for the game, because a lot of that's featured in the guidebook. Just the idea of like kind of this travel across like this overworld. You have this underworld where like the dwarfs live, and then you end up going to the moon. I'm like, that's a cool idea. Like that's pretty crazy. You go in all these different places. So eventually I found a copy of the game, played through it, whatever summer it was that I ended up getting it. And you know what? It was one of those games where once I finally did play it, it was again one of those things where when I, started to play it, I really got invested in the characters and the story. And even though, like with the Dragon Quest example that Platty gave when he was giving his list, like there are games that have done it better from Final Fantasy. Final Fantasy IV is still one to me that it has a lot of sentimental value. Probably a little bit of nostalgia why it's a favorite of mine. But you know what? To me, this is a game that still really holds up because I first played it on the Game Boy Advance version, which added some new content, retranslated stuff, added a little bit more details for the characters. And I really just like what I played, and I've enjoyed revisiting this game over the years across the different versions. And whenever people bring up Final Fantasy, like Final Fantasy IV is one of the very first games that I think of, whether it's Final Fantasy, whether it's RPGs. I really enjoy the main cast of the game quite a bit. I like how Cecil, the main character, kind of struggles with whether he wants to keep his Dark Knight role or if he wants to, just get rid of this blade entirely because of all the things he's done. You have his love interest, Rosa, who is unfortunately a bit more of a damsel of distress, but she's also the rock for Cecil, who keeps him, wanting to stick on that path, and, he wants to improve for her as well as her just wanting to always be there to help protect him and, use her white magic to help anyone that she can. You have Kane, his best friend, who's a Dragoon, who is a little bit jealous, and you're not really sure throughout the game, was he getting controlled by the main villain, Golbez, or was he doing it of his own free will, turning against them? It's one of those things where it's kind of a gray area where you're not 100% sure, but he has a nice little character arc, and it's gotten better, too, with some of the remakes that have come out as well. And you have this revolving, what I like to call the revolving door cast, where as you travel through the game, you'll get different characters that join up. They'll have their own plots going on. You have the prince of the kingdom of Damcian named Edward, who disguises himself as the infamous You Spoony Bard from Tella. You have characters like Palom and Porum, who are these young twin mages from the town of Mysidia, which Cecil attacks at the very beginning of the game. And even though they're used to spy on Cecil to see if he's actually able to complete the task set to him by traveling to Mount Ordeals to become a paladin, they become, steadfast companions, and they look up to Cecil and Sage Tella. And you just have it's a very solid cast, in my opinion. And for this being, originally being a Super Nintendo game, I think it still holds up pretty well with some of its story and character writing. Some of it's also just oh my god, RPG trope number 362 for some of the stuff that happens in the plot. But I can appreciate
it wouldn't be a JRPG if it didn't have some of that in it.
Exactly. And you know what? For the time this came out too, and that's one of the things I appreciate about the game as well. This is one of the games that really started helping push for more narrative in RPGs. With games like this, like Phantasy Star 2, these are ones that really started to help pushing that. And you know what? For it being as simple as it is, kind of with some other games from this era, I think it still holds up pretty well. It's a simple but understandable / fun story. Stuff happens, they're just oh my gosh, no, this happened, but oh look, Sid comes in, saves the day. You thought he was down, oh no, you can't put Sid down. It's one of those just kind of fun rides. It's kind of just a fun action flick almost, where just the craziest stuff can happen, and you just get sucked in and you just enjoy it. And for me, Final Fantasy IV just has a lot of great environments that you travel through, a lot of great music from Nobuo Uematsu. Probably one of the best boss themes that he wrote for the series as well, with just the regular boss theme, with that great opening going do 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 do. It's great. It gets you in the mood for a fight. It's so good. And this is just a game that, with every version that I've played, I've never once gotten bored with it. Even when I played the 3D remake on the DS, which really changed a lot of stuff about the game, that was still such an interesting experience. I loved that. It was a great new take on the game. But this is a game that, when I played it, it got me more into other RPGs, played more Final Fantasy, started looking into other series, eventually got back to Dragon Quest with the main games. Just overall, this is a game that I have a lot of love for, both for getting me more into other RPGs and other games with this kind of style to it, but just for still, standing up to the test of time and just being, a fun, solid RPG. This is to me one of the classic RPGs. If you want to, get your feet wet with an RPG, this is a good one to start with. It's simple to learn, easy to play, got a good story and characters, nice gameplay loop going on. Constantly changing party, kind of keep things fresh for you. But yeah, that is my number. This would be my number one pick. The rest of these were all in just whatever order. But if I had to pick a game that'd be yep, this is one of my favorite RPGs. Number one, Final Fantasy IV. Got to go with that. So, Excellent. With all that said, Platty.
Hey, that's even a game that I've played a couple times. I played it on the Super Nintendo. Don't know if I did any of the GBA versions, but I know I did the DS remake. So it was always good. It was always good. I'd put it better than a Chrono Trigger.
There you go.
There's some high praise.
It's certified fresh.
Certified better than meh.
All right. Well then, Platty.
All right. So.
I'm really curious what your number one's going to be, because
you have a guess?
Well, no, because I thought it was going to be Persona 4.
So, all right.
I'm not sure what it's going to be then.
At this current time, at the time that we're recording it, it is not part of a series.
Okay.
But apparently it soon will be.
It will be. Was it a recent release?
Not at all.
Oh, boy. Well, I don't really feel like playing 20 questions.
All
Just
right.
go ahead and spill the beans.
Well, it shares the first word is the same as the last word of your last game.
Fantasy. Oh,
Yeah.
it's Fantasy Life. Duh.
Yes, Fantasy Life.
Oh my god, I didn't even think about that one, man.
And imagine my surprise out of absolutely fucking nowhere from a developer that I was like, well, they were fun. Level 5, putting out Fantasy Life I, whatever the hell the I means.
The
Please don't
long-awaited
be.
sequel.
Yes, the long-awaited sequel. Hell, there was supposed to be like a phone game sequel, and that never even materialized. At least not over here. But Fantasy Life. This was on the 3DS, and going back to what I was saying about Rune Factory, whereas Harvest Moon was my gateway into farming games, and then you add a little bit of battle elements, a very simplistic kind of action RPG compared to something like Ys with Rune Factory 4. Well, imagine if you took Rune Factory 4, gave it a job system, and took away the farming. Well, that's Fantasy Life. It was just a little chibified action RPG where you could pick from 12 different jobs. I mean, and you could really just go deep. You could do a paladin. Or a mercenary or a hunter or wizard. They were your main fighter people. Like if you were going to go out and actually like try to get resources from animals. You could be a miner or a woodcutter or an angler if you wanted to go out and get resources from like fishing or wood or mining stuff. You could be an alchemist or a carpenter or a blacksmith or a cook or a tailor if you wanted to take all those items and then make stuff out of it. Alchemist obviously was like making spells and potions, or the carpenter would be building furniture because every main town that you ended up in, you'd get a new house. So you needed to furnish 3, 4, or 5 houses. To decorate stuff. There's blacksmith making obviously your weapons and armor, the cook making food to, eat along the way and heal you. You had the tailor who could also make like leather armor and gloves and some other basic stuff that you could use in the game. I think also they'd make like the drapes, or I think they could do stuff with the the furniture in the house to make it look different as well. So just 12 different jobs. You could go at any time and switch between them. It wasn't like they had like set times that you could switch. It was just like anytime you could be like, you know what, peace out. I'm going to go over here and do this another way. Switch your jobs. And it is the third of my 100+ hour games on my list here. Dragon Quest VII 3DS would have been the fourth. So honestly, we've pretty much mentioned all the games I've put over 100 hours to in on my 3DS, but I just absolutely loved it. I don't know what got in me. It was level 5 as level 5 hell could get, and I did all the side quests. I did all the quests. I bought the DLC, which probably you've got about a month or two left to buy on the 3DS store if you've got money already there. But they had DLC that added, and it wasn't cheap. I want to say it was like a $15 or $20 DLC that added a whole extra continent. And all 12 of these jobs had tasks to do to level your job skill up. And at the end of the game, like you could get up to master creationist of all of them. You could be master paladin, master carpenter, whatever. I did that. I got all the way, did everything. And I can't tell you how many times I played that damn rhythm game to make the alchemy and the tailoring and the carpentry. It was all button pressing, because you could fuck up. You could try to make a nice chair for somebody, and if you didn't press the buttons at the right time, it wasn't a good enough quality chair, and then you wasted your beautiful wood that your woodcutter job had got you, and the tapestry that your tailor had made and everything, and now you got kind of this ruined, crappy level chair. And I want to say some of the side quests, or like the quest checklist, was like, make a chair that's of excellent quality out of oak, make an oak level chair, or make the entire pine furniture suite or something like that. And I did it all. I did it all the way up for the main game, 100%. And then when you bought the DLC, it opened up like this whole nother continent in the sky. You went up there. It was a celestial realm, and it was a whole nother like overworld to go over. You got a new house. You got all these new quests. And every job level suddenly had one more tier. So like I want to say there were 4 tiers to begin with, and then this added a 5th tier. It added like another 25% to the game again. And I got everything up. I know except for 2 jobs, and I know one of them was a wizard because it was like, you know what? Some of these tasks started getting like Dragon Quest IX level unlockable shit, like, you know, go beat a slime with no equipment on and only using your fists while they're asleep or something like that.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God, how do you make this happen? Now, I will say the ones that I didn't finish, I know they were for Wizard and they were for something else, and it was just skill based. I was like, I cannot go beat the fucking red dragon that's got 10,000 hit points with fire magic, because fire magic barely hurt a red dragon or something like that. I don't know. So I did 10 of the jobs I took from like master class to god class, and then 2 of them I fell a little bit short, and I'm always like, I'll go back to that one day. Never have, but you know, who knows if Fantasy Life I is any good and gets me as invested. Maybe I will go back and plug it in and see if it's as good to go back to as I remember. And gosh, Fantasy Life I is going to have even more expectations put on it than ever Oasis. So dear God, poor game.
Oh no!
Speaking of our games we love to hate episode,
I'm surprised that game didn't end up on your favorite or your meh list.
It was definitely, it should have been on the meh list, but I think I already fired my shots at that one last year, and it really suffered from not being Fantasy Life 2. So, well, it was like, nah.
Well, for your sake, I'm hoping that this new one is going to be, you know, worth the wait for not a proper sequel for a while.
Yeah, gosh, 10 years plus. I don't know. That little eye in it is like really worrisome. Like, what the fuck is that eye there for?
Yeah, I don't get that either. Like, when I watched that trailer finally, I'm like, what does the I stand for?
And the first thing I saw people say is like, that's like a mobile gaming convention name. And I'm like, oh, this better not be some crappy spin-off thing. Like, did they take that mobile game that they were going to make 9 years ago and actually just bring it over to the Switch as a kind of gotcha game? No, please don't be that way. Don't be that way. Be a proper game.
I hope it's not that way too. I don't know if it's one I'm going to get, but I hope they don't do that kind of crap.
I think that's one I could not bear to review. I will not like fight anybody for the review copy of that, because I think I need to get it and not have any expectations put on me to rush through it or something. Because if it's trash, I just need to put that aside, because that will end up on my bottom 5 list very easily if I force myself to go through a bad sequel to a beloved game. And if it's meh, I'll just kind of work through it. And if it's amazing, I'll spend a lot of time with it. So I'm actually surprised I enjoyed Octopath Traveler 2 as much as I did, kind of being under my own little time restraint.
Yeah, I was not expecting that to pop up on your list.
I was not either until, I mean, like about a week ago, I was like, I looked at my list and I'm like, man, do I take Persona 4 off for this? Like, I'm thinking so. And by the time I got to everybody's last chapter and started clearing up some stuff at the end and was like, oh my gosh, I know where this is going. I know what the last chapter is probably going to be about. And I was like, this is damn good. I mean, first off, like probably my favorite 2 battle systems in the past dozen years have definitely been the Trails and the Octopath Traveler battle systems. Like I kind of said the reverse of it with the SaGa games. Both these games, like everything's right there. You see the turn order. You see what, like if you like just putting the cursor over defend, I can see where in the turn order somebody's going to go. In Octopath, it was always, you could break the characters and make them dizzy for a bit and get some extra good hits in there by knocking their shield points down. And I just love the strategy of making sure you're knocking them their shield points down while they still can attack that turn. Because if you do it then, you've knocked them out of that turn plus the next. Like if they've already gone and you break them, then, well, they miss the next turn, but they don't miss 2. Like, sometimes not attacking at the end of a round, defending and going first the next round is the way to go, because you're going to have one more shot. You're going to be able to knock them out. Like just the numbers and the strategy of being able to see everything, like counting, like, okay, if I do this and if I do that, and I don't think I went on about how much I loved Ochette this time, the Beastmaster, and just finding the perfect beasts to capture that had skills that attacked everybody or attacked everybody twice even. And Hikari was the warrior, and you could choose to duel any old townsperson, and finding those townspeople like, yeah, that's the skill I want to learn. I'm going to duel this fucker because he can do a knife attack that attacks 3 times in a row. And the next time I show up at a boss fight, I'll be knocking his shields down pretty quick, as long as he's weak to knives. But yeah, a week ago, it would have been Persona 4, and just that blew past the last 30 hours, like, onto my list. And again, like I said, it's kind of a culmination of everything that I've played from Bravely and Octopath over the past 6.5 years. Mm-hmm. In a vacuum, it probably wouldn't have made that much. Might have been a top 10, not top 5.
Well, we're going to have to see now at the end of the year if this makes it into your top games of 2023. We're only at the beginning of March, so we'll
I was going to say, let me tell you, if I had to pick my top 3 right now, it would be this. It would be Rune Factory 3, and dear God, it better be a frickin' Fantasy Life I. Because if not, man, it'll be on my shit list big time.
Platty will be writing his own hate mail too from Level 5's office.
Yep. Too bad they're not in America anymore. I can't go deliver it in person.
Just take it to Nintendo. They used to publish their stuff. They can probably help you out.
I think they are publishing it now because their North American publishing is gone. Level 5s. So yeah, they'll be published by Nintendo. Yep. That and Layton and whatever other weirdo game they got coming out.
Yeah, because Nintendo always had to step in for them for the longest time because it was pretty much because of them that we got the Layton games back on the DS.
Yep.
Because for whatever reason, Level 5 was just like, no, you want that? No, you don't want that, do you? But yeah, I don't know. But, yep. Well, I guess we'll find out. Yes, we did. I guess we're going to find out soon if we're going to get hate mail or not from this episode.
I mean, how many other times do we talk 30 games in an episode? Woo-wee.
I know. Well, that's why I'm glad we only had just the two of us, because otherwise, if we had another person, we might still be going. But this is fun, though. I enjoyed doing this episode.
Yep. As always, that's it for this episode of Slime Time Sidequest. Thank you, Yangus, for suggesting this episode and joining me to talk about all these games.
Yeah, thank you for humoring me and letting us do this episode idea. I just, like I said in the beginning, this was just kind of a spur-of-the-moment thing I thought up after watching that John Carpenter list video from Red Letter Media, and I thought it would be an interesting thing to do, just to see what sort of games we would both pick. And there definitely were surprises for both of us, I'd say. My reaction. So, but yeah, this has been a lot of fun. So thank you, Platty, for letting us do this episode. But I think there's something we need to let the audience know before we end things off for the night.
I know. Inflation. It's through the roof recently, and we talked about all the supply line issues and the cutbacks we've needed to do. But we're still committed to not fucking using Patreon. Nope. We don't use it.
No.
Screw it. But if you've got any gold coins, completely burning a hole in your wallet, pouch, bottomless bag, treasure chest, pot barrel safe, or even searchable wall sack, and you would like to donate anything to a website that's been supporting Dragon Quest fans for more than 20 years now, go on, stop by the Dragon's Den website at www.woodus.com/den. Click on support this site. Woodus has owned and maintained that website for decades, and he personally edits every YouTube version of the podcast. He's probably going to have a heart attack when Yangus sends him all the screenshots of everything for our 30 games, and he fully appreciates any donations to help the servers keep running.
Oh, he's going to have a heart attack is right. So, the Dragon's Den website also features an Amazon affiliate link. If you click the link and then make a purchase on Amazon, a small fraction of the sale will go to support the Den. It doesn't cost you anything, and it'll help Woodus keep the site going for another 20 years.
That's right. Woodus even got a Slime Time t-shirt with the logo from our resident graphic artist, Dwayne Bullock, for sale on the Den.
Yes, and as part of the Dragon Quest Slime Time Extended Universe, or DQ Stew.
Stew!
Stew! You can direct comments or questions for the podcast on Twitter and Instagram at DQ Slimetime, or consider joining in tons of DQ discussions at the Dragon's Den forums, one of the few remaining forums still around. Find it from the Dragon's Den main page or at www.woodus.com/forums. You can also find us and other rabid DQ fans through Berurian's officially unofficial Dragon's Den Discord server.
For more Dragon Quest Slime Time, Sidequest, or Tactfully Die, check out our library of episodes on the Dragon's Den, Anchor FM, Apple Podcasts, blah, blah, blah. Wherever you're listening to this, just make sure you subscribe and write a review. That would help us. Thanks.
If you have any suggestions for any future SideQuest episodes, or maybe seen another one of these kind of episodes with other guests instead, I'd be happy to hear from you. You can reach out to Platty via Plattym3 you can reach out to Plattym3 on Twitter or Discord or the Dragon's Den. You can also contact me, Yangus the Legendary Bandit, on the Dragon's Den via personal message, via Twitter at Yangus the Legend, or on the Dragon's Den Discord. Just search for Yangus or Yangus the Legend. We have a list full of ideas, and we'd be happy to add more.
Bye, everybody.
Side quest complete.